Welcome, everybody, to Perpetual Backlog Podcast, where we talk about gaming news, gaming topics, gaming everything. As you all know me. I'm Aqua, your host. And joining me like usual is our capybara mascot, Dollet.
Good to see you all again.
And what would be our fully 5G installed pizza monger, but like usual, 5G's not... Takes a bit to get used to, so, yeah, she's not here this week.
Send all your well wishes to Leek. She has been vaccinated. We wish her well.
Yeah. Now this week is special. Tales of Arise is coming out at the end of the week, and we're going to talk about it, this show, and various other Tales formats. But as you can see, Dollet and myself aren't the only ones present here, and if you read the title, we decided to bring someone on to talk about Tales of Arise and other games in that genre. We got the man, the myth, the legend, the collectors of eggs in both in-game and out-of-game, JayRPG. How you doing, man?
Yeah, not bad. Wait, what eggs?
Eggs. Because you needed to collect eggs in-game and collect eggs out-of-game. That's how long you've been playing the game.
He's making reference to a very particular
forgot about. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, I did need eggs, and then I realized I didn't need eggs in real life.
You're just like, what am I gonna do with all these eggs? All these eggs, man. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad.
Thank you for coming on.
No problem.
Yeah. I don't know if you've listened to any bits of our podcast in between the time that I asked you to come on and now. But we have like a small little format that we do. In the beginning, we talk about what we've done in the past week, whether it be Dollet going to school or me going through video games or any of that sort. And then we have like usually have a viewer question, which we do this week. Little said he wasn't going to miss this week. And then we go into our topic. And then
sure.
that's usually how it goes. So what did you do this week? And obviously it's Tales of Arise. So is that all you did this week?
Well, this week I mostly finished it. I was pretty close to the platinum about 4 days ago. So I haven't played much in the last 3 or so days. But I just did get the platinum just before jumping on this podcast.
Oh.
So yeah, that and I've been struggling to write this. I had a final preview video in the works, and I've been struggling to write that script. I almost finished that, but it's almost time for review, so I don't know what is going to happen with that at the moment. But yeah, that's what I've done.
Well, so what's giving you trouble?
Yeah, what's giving you trouble? No comment.
Well, it was I was trying to do, because I've done a preview and I've done tons of other coverage, and I had another idea for a video where I wanted to talk about the major changes the series has gone through. There's been like 3 major engine changes.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
And so I wanted to sort of tie that in, like go back and see the major changes that have happened before, and then talk about the changes that are going to happen in Arise, and sort of bring that together with a final bit of a preview for Tales of Arise. But I wanted to get that out about a week ago, so I think I'll probably just drop the preview part and just make it a sort of companion piece for the review.
That sounds like a good idea.
Yeah. And the you getting the platinum just before this tells me that I should be able to get it within the 6 days that I'm off. So
yeah,
6 days off work, so I can get
this. When I got it, when I got the code, I played like 50 something hours in just under 4 days. I think it was a lot in the first.
Yeah, no, that's relatable.
Yeah, that's fair.
Yeah, I couldn't stop. It was quite addictive.
Oh, that's good to hear.
The demo has been, so
yeah.
I'm sure the actual full release will be as well.
I threw like 10 hours into the demo when it came out.
I think I have like 13 now, or so.
That
It's a
demo's really
lot.
good. I had
Look,
one problem with it. It wasn't the full game.
yeah, that's
Yeah.
pretty much it. It's just been a joy to really get to know, to like have this vertical slice where I could try out each of the characters individually and
Yeah.
like just
Yeah.
not worry about anything else happening. Hey guys, don't forget to sub to the channel if you're into what you're hearing. While you're down there, remember to like the video as much as we like you. You'll be good now.
Yeah, exactly. I think it's a good way to do a demo. I know a lot of people get like they want the demo to be something that you can carry on. You're like, it's just sort of the first chapter or something, and then your
Mhm.
progress carries over into the full game. But I just don't think that works for something like this. I think it works for something like Monster Hunter Stories 2,
Yes.
Yeah.
but this is, yeah, I mean, Tales is a super story driven, super character driven thing. I don't think you'd want to do a whole first chapter. Like, I don't think you'd want, because there's a lot of what people would consider spoilers in the first chapter, even though the majority of the marketing material has been from the first chapter.
Yeah.
It would be, yeah.
Like, I do like sometimes when demos do that, but I'm not. When I played the Rise demo, I was just like, okay, they put it in a spot where it's probably like a good 15 hours into the game, if that, and you get the basics of pretty much everything outside of like title panels in that demo. So I like that a lot better
Yeah.
than getting the first hour of the game where you probably only have 2 or 3 people in your party.
Yeah,
I'd be
exactly.
surprised
Like
if it was even that.
there's limited things you can experience. Like this
Yeah.
was trying to show you a bit of what it's like, to actually have a full party and what some of the things are actually capable of once you get up there. But yeah, from what I can remember of the preview of the first chapter, it's yeah, it's you don't get a whole lot, like nothing compared to what you
Oh
get to
yeah.
experience in the demo in terms of the actual combat system, because your first chapter is mostly focused on story stuff,
Of
world
course.
Yeah.
building.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think this demo has an advantage over the traditional demo, or I guess the come to be traditional demo, in that regard. Like this, like I said before, this was just a nice vertical slice. It gave you, sorry, to my knowledge, the full party. They felt maybe a little overtuned for the area, but it allowed us to have a lot of fun. Genuinely speaking, I've never really cared for the casters of Tales games before. I'll enjoy their story, I'll enjoy the character, but playing them is always a bit. But Rinwell is amazing, and I probably wouldn't have given her the time of day if I didn't have like access to really sit down and really tinker around with it before the game came out, of course.
Yeah.
But yeah, this feels like, especially with the brand new combat engine, this was the way to do it for a demo. Absolutely. Everyone expects the story to be good, and I'm sure it is. But this is what people might have been a bit, unsure of.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah,
really
Well, I
happy they
mean,
decided to show it off.
there was a discourse on Twitter about like the week the demo was gonna come out, where people were like, "Bosses don't stagger in this game, and there's your movement gets off track." Like in every single Tales game, I've played through 5 of them in the past 2 months. Every single
Yeah.
Tales game, your character goes off track, even mid combo. So I don't want to fucking
I
hear it.
yeah,
I saw a bit of that. I think you brought it up again. It confused me a bit because we'd seen that a lot of what they said were untrue, but even if they were 100% correct, and they're very much not, this is not every previous Tales game.
No.
I mean, have a bit of
yeah.
faith that these people who have been making this game forever know what they're doing. But again, that's beside the point because that whole thing was apparently in bad faith anyhow.
Yeah, I don't know. I speaking to that whole situation, I don't know what their goal was, because it did seem, I would say, like very in bad faith. It seemed like a lot of the people who are annoyed at Tales of Arise are people who care about things that are actually gone, like multiplayer. Um, but they like try and find then other because they know multiplayer is a niche issue. It's like the nichest of niche issues. Um,
I'm
but
so
the
happy to
Tales
hear you say
series,
that. I've
Yeah.
said that
but
before, and I had some pretty interesting takes given to me afterwards.
oh, I mean, people can the loud people can say it's not niche, but it 100% is because if it was well, for one, if it wasn't, they would not have removed it. And two, I mean, I've seen so many polls, so much data that shows just how small the people who actually used multiplayer were. So that's a niche issue, but they've been trying to find like objective ways that have nothing to do with multiplayer for a reason to hate it. Um, and that's not specific to just multiplayer. It's like people who will find something that, like with the skits as well. So the
Yeah.
skits aren't 2D
Yes, I've
portraits
heard
anymore.
this.
Skits aren't 2D portraits anymore. So now we need to find a whole bunch of objective ways in which the game is bad because the skits, like when it, just nobody's really looking at the bigger picture and nobody's really giving objective ways in which the game is bad or wrong or non-Tales like. It's just a whole bunch of garbage really is what I've relegated it to. You can have complaints, you can have disagreements, you can not agree with choices. I do think that 2D portraits have a certain charm to them that the new skits don't have, but there are things the new skit format has that 2D skits don't have. So,
Like
you know,
costumes.
swings and roundabout.
Costumes.
Yeah, but costumes, outfits, but it's not only that, it's just general variety as
Yeah.
well because like you can't have each character, you can't be hand drawing 400 different portraits for each character. So like you really stuck with between 10 and 30
If
ish
that.
portraits
Yeah.
per character. And when you're talking about games that can have 200, 300 skits, there's only so much you can do with the 2D format.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely, and they're adorable, and I'm gonna miss them, especially after having just played through a couple of Tales games. But anyone who's paying attention to the industry should be aware that working with models is just much easier and more time efficient. So this
Yeah.
was an inevitability, and I do expect them to be really uh, creative with the rigging, shall we say, certain posing going on. So I look forward to them.
Yeah, that I mean from the skits I've seen so far, um, which I mean in reality is obviously all of them. But well, I think I maybe haven't seen 9 or something like that. But like from the ones that have been publicly released, you can see how much just in one skit, um, you can really see sort of like the dynamic panels and how much more variety there is in the characters' positioning and stuff like that compared to like the entire amount of skits in other games.
Sure.
It's just yeah, it's fun. I don't know if it'll only time will tell really if it sticks, if this is going to be the format going forward. I think they'll definitely experiment and change around because they've had when I was working on that video that I've been working on, they've changed formats a lot of times. Like they haven't always been straight 2D anime portraits because they used the pixel art back in the older
Mhm.
ones that actually had it.
Yeah.
And in terms of like, we had the talking heads for a while, but then they moved to the like Tales of Graces F had the like a totally different style where it was like 3/4 of the body length
Yeah.
and they all stood around and talked to each other sort of, and they faded in and back. And then Berseria had very much, I feel, is the predecessor to this new system in that it had a series of panels that scrolled on the screen. It was just like a less elaborate comic panel system to the one that's in Arise.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah,
Well,
I think time will tell if where they decide to go with it. But I'm looking forward to it.
Of course,
uh,
yes.
always looking
100%.
forward to it. Dollet, what did you do this week? Because we're still in
Uh,
that segment of the game and not and not in the Tales of Arise segment of this podcast.
This is true. As you can imagine, because of what we were speaking to before, I powered through the entirety of Zillia in the last 3 days, so that's been fun. I'm sure I did something before that, but literally my memory at the moment begins and ends with Zillia. So, who boy, that's been my main thing as I wait for classes to resume tomorrow.
And you got
That's
through the whole game.
No, technically, I still have to go beat the final boss because I ran out of time tonight. But I literally have one boss left.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. His favorite boss.
We can get to that later on if we need to fill time. I feel like that's just going to start fights that I'm going to lose. But I did very much enjoy it. I should put that out there. I thought it was going to feel a bit more clunky and old than it did. It still feels super nice, very, very responsive. Jude was an absolute joy to play as.
So
Melia,
you
Melia, God,
played
I've done it
by
again. Mila was also fantastic.
did you play from Jude's perspective?
I did choose Jude's perspective for this route. I will at some point go back and fill in my gaps on Mila's.
Yeah, I've been recommending for first time players when people ask to just play Mila's route because I mean if you don't plan on doing both, I think Mila's is the more important route. I don't know how I don't even
Uh,
know. I don't even know in my country whether we say route or route, to be honest. But one
I
of
think
those
it's
things.
I think it's good either way.
Stakes one, half a dozen the other.
Yeah, but I think that like Mila's side is slightly more important in the grand scheme. But there's not that many
Yeah.
differences between the two.
Uh, yeah, I mean, like obviously the big difference is when they split is when Mila quote unquote dies. Um,
Yeah.
that's the
I,
biggest important part, but I mean, I don't know. It's very
well,
important to see Jude's
also,
side too.
I don't know. I don't really care about Jude, to be honest. I don't really
Oh.
care about most of the the male lead protagonists because they're all like goofy, dorky, goody two shoes, lame-o characters.
Oh, I like most of the characters. I mean, so this Zillia was the game that I hope that they continue that they did the same thing they did with Symphonia, which I would have 100% enjoyed a route where we were able to kill Alvin. Um, since he is
Dude,
since he's the double backstabbing quadruple triple agent guy.
that
Because you
was
can't trust
rough,
him. You
honestly.
can't trust him.
Not to get too far into this game, but yeah, Alvin's writing was interesting. Alvin's writing made the rest of the group seem really stupid. And I like this game. I don't even hate the writing. I thought it was more or less a really well conceived story. But man, how many times are you just going to have all these otherwise smart and capable characters just get absolutely duped by the same guy?
Yeah. I mean, I think they just have to sort of sometimes make concessions for silly things.
Oh yeah.
But
No, no, no.
I
I
think
did
I
I did
think like
understand.
the funniest like because it's because trader characters are common in Tales, and I think they just
Yeah.
wanted to take it like to the extreme. Like he's a trader. Oh, he's not a trader. He's not really a trader, guys. Oh no, he is. Oh, he's not. I think they just really wanted to take that to the extreme ridiculousness
Oh yeah. No,
of the
they they
trope.
they they pumped it up to 11 for sure. It's interesting because I played Symphonia back in the day. Definitely understand that Zelos was not going to be the only traitor in I was Christendom in Talesdom. But since then, I've played uh, Abyss, Vesperia, and Berseria, and I feel like they don't show up as much.
Oh no, yeah, it's definitely not a there's like there's a set of things that are in almost every Tales game, and then there's a set of things that are recurring, but not in every one. Like Twin Worlds is another example
Yes.
of a thing that's very common in Tales, but not necessarily in every Tales.
Yeah, I tend to miss the reoccurring things. Zillia has opened my eyes to a lot of what's the word I'm going to go for? Tropes that are rampant in the series that I've just somehow managed to skip over because of my long absence from it.
Yeah, Zillia has a lot of them.
It's not a
Yeah,
bad game for
Azealia
them.
has, yeah, it has lots to do. At the time, um, when Exilia was in development, they were also starting pre-production and development on Zestiria, which was going to be the 20th anniversary title.
Yes.
So that was the one that was supposed to, mix things up, and Exilia was then obviously supposed to be like the stalwart uh, main Tales entry, like the things that we've had before. So, kind of like the Final Fantasy 9 to the Final Fantasy 10, but not that extreme.
Yeah.
And that ended up not being the case because, as I recall, Zillia or Exilia 2 came out prior to Zestiria?
Yeah, so what ended up happening was Zestiria's development was taking too long and it wasn't going to be ready. And Exilia 2 was then developed in a year.
That is absolutely insanity.
Well, they didn't have anything. They didn't really put in anything fairly new in Zillia 2. You had a couple of new, like, newish areas or whatever, but they used a lot of the same assets.
I mean, it's understandable given a year to do this work, but there's still just so much that happens. A year is just an insane amount of time to pull out a full title.
Yeah, I mean, especially because they reuse a lot of the locations and assets, but it's still a brand new story. Has brand,
Exactly.
it has returning characters that make up the bulk of the party, but there's still new characters. I mean, yeah, it's a pretty extreme thing to pull off in a year. But yeah, basically it was mostly stuff apart from the Aluga and that sort of very specific story stuff. The story of the world was due to be in Exilia, but they it was cut. So they basically took what was going to be that was cut from Exilia and turned it into a full game and made it just before Zestiria come out.
Yeah.
Wow, that's saying something because I'm going to preface this again. I like Exilia. I like it quite a lot. Boy, that game goes on forever.
It does.
Yeah, well, that's the thing because the end still manages sort of to feel a little bit rushed. It's my favorite Tales game, but I don't think I could ever brush off that criticism some people
Hmm.
have. Where you go to the other world and you only get like 3 locations or whatever it is.
That sounds
So
about right.
yeah, but yeah,
And
it
then
does.
immediately Final Dungeon.
Yeah, it does get to the point where, yeah, like obviously you can sort of see why these things were cut because if every single game had every single thing, like every bit of thing that you wrote down in a pre-production idea, it would just games would never come out.
They'd never end either.
Yeah, and I mean Tales it's modest budgets and they're usually done on pretty strict timelines, so you just have to get done what you can get done.
Absolutely.
Oh, I never have a problem with I almost normally never have a problem with a budget for a JRPG because I probably play one of the most budgeted JRPG lines ever, and that's the Trail series because Falcom doesn't know how to do anything but put in voice acting.
Oh boy, yeah, they do allocate their funds suspiciously.
Yes. They're like, okay,
I
this
guess how come it
main
just set in their ways?
yeah.
Yeah, it does strike me as that because they've had ample opportunity to make the leap to newer software, newer hardware, newer ideas, but it just seems that they keep putting out what they know to work. And to their credit, it does work. So fair enough. I'm gonna play the Cold Steel, the next Cold Steel game I get my hands on, which is 4. So I guess I can't
Spoilers.
criticize them too much.
All right, so Tales of Zillia, you're almost at the final boss.
Yep.
Great. So I, like last week and the week before, have been doing a what spanned over like 3 months of a Tales of marathon up until Arise, where I've played Symphonia, Vesperia, Zestiria, and Berseria, and I'm currently playing Xillia, but I'm not going to finish that game. I did finish.
That's almost all the good entries.
Oh, yeah.
Almost all the best entries, I should
He
say.
was being very choosy about what he picked up.
Okay, so I chose Symphonia because I had never played Symphonia until this year. Well, I mean, I played like the first like 5 hours of Symphonia at some point in time, but I never got anywhere near. I never got anywhere near the ending of that game. So I decided to pick that one. It was one of the Steam ones that I had, obviously. So I decided to play that. Boy, man, I am.
He has no nostalgia for this.
Thank God I started with Abyss, because holy shit, if I would have started with Symphonia, I would have fucking hated the series. I hate Symphonia with a burning passion.
I don't remember
What
it
do you
being
hate
this
about
bad.
it specifically?
Everything. There's no free roam. Most of the characters are garbage. The way they do the beginning of the story, where they're like, oh, you can go to 12 different places at the beginning of the story, and it's all not wrong, but they don't tell you where to go. They're just like, here, fucking, your redheaded stepchild getting fucking thrown on the orphan doorstep. You go explore Silverant.
But did you see? That's the thing. Did you actually do like that alternate route thing where you go over the little bridge?
I picked up a guide and I went the vanilla way because I wanted to
You'd
get
never
through this
know
game.
that he's the Tales fan of the two of us.
I took me a month to get through Symphonia, man. That's how much I didn't
Symphonia
want to
being
stray
very
this
good.
game.
The problem with, and it seems like a very small thing because I don't actually care about this, but the PS3 and the PC versions are based on the PS2 version, and its FPS is cut in half, and it's
I don't care about that.
It's a massive problem for me, having originally played the game on GameCube.
That's where I played it. It was rock solid.
It honestly, because frame rate usually does not bother me. Like, I can play games at 30 FPS, it's fine.
Yeah.
But it's like the second when I heard about the Chronicles HD remaster, like the PS3 one, I bought the limited edition. I was so excited to like jump in and think, yes, I'm going to get to experience, the new PS2 exclusive content that we didn't get over here. And the second I started playing, I'm like, this feels wrong. Like, there's something wrong here. And that's when I Googled, and they're like, yeah, it's the PS2 version's stuck at 30 FPS. I'm like, what the fuck?
I don't have a problem with that. I mean, obviously,
it honestly does make the combat feel so much worse. It's yeah, I don't know.
Might have been psychological. You might not even have noticed it, but especially because you've played the later series games. This is something that I've been saying in the past weeks. Yeah, I imagine it probably hasn't aged as well as I think it has. So anything on top of that might be rough.
So I will agree that if this game got any sort of a actual remake, which will never happen because that's just not how this development team works, I guess. If it gets anything of a kind of a bring to the modern era type thing, it will probably be like one of the best Tales games because everybody's nostalgic with it and everything. But yeah, I couldn't go back and play it again. I'm never going to go back and play it again.
It definitely is. It's the entry that sort of started the popularity in the West. Yes. So tons of people have nostalgia for it. I think, I have heard of other people playing it, for like the first time in recent times and having not quite having as much distaste for it as you do, but not understanding why it was that popular to begin with.
Yeah,
but I also think that other than Abyss, that entire section, like that period of Tales, I think most people would go back and play something like Vesperians and wonder, like, not definitive, but even so a little bit with definitive, I think they would wonder, like, why do people love this so much? Not hate it, but wonder, like, why does everybody say this is the best one? And I would be similar with Symphonia and definitely with Legendia.
Oh,
Well, I
I don't know
wouldn't.
anybody that says Legendia is their favorite one.
I know
Because
Psycho likes it, but yeah, Legendia was such. I guess it really wasn't that big of a sidestep, but it felt huge. It felt so different.
Yeah, well, that's when you can really tell what, like, there's something about Tales games. There's a Tales feel, and Legendia, it is a Tales game in every way, but you still can feel that something's wrong,
Something's
and
off,
yeah,
absolutely.
it's because the Tales team, the people who worked on Tales, did not make it. It was
yeah.
made by like Tekken devs and stuff like that. So yeah, it's Tales, but it just doesn't have that same feel. It's just different.
Though, to your point, it does make sense that our rose-colored glasses kind of sway our point. I imagine if you could find someone who had never played Final Fantasy VII and you made them play the original, they might also have some questions about popularity.
Oh yeah, I think so. I think there are certain games that are classic, like, and I think there are plenty of people who can play Symphonia and Vesperia today and enjoy it. Maybe still wonder, why it's so popular, but I think that would be the same with Final Fantasies, especially like, 6, 7, 8,
Yes, yes, yes,
and
Yes.
yes.
9. Even nine's my favorite, and I usually give 9 as my perfect example of a JRPG. But there are people who would go back and play it now, and I've heard people say it's okay, I guess. And I
I'm
think,
gonna have
okay, a
I'm gonna
fucking
have
masterpiece.
I'm gonna have the hot take here. I also
Don't
do
say
not
it.
like Final Fantasy 9.
Why? It's like it is genuinely a love letter to all the previous Final Fantasy. The only issue I have with 9, honestly, is the trans system is very bad.
I
So
knew
I
you
Everything
were
don't
gonna
else I
say that.
enjoy.
mind the gameplay. I don't mind the story. I really do not like 95% of that cast. I
What?
really do not like 95% of it. I hate Zidane. I think Vivi's like the only good character in the game.
Aqua, how have I known you for so long and only heard this take now?
Yeah, Freya is okay.
All right, listen. The only character of the main party that I take any issue with is Amarant, because he comes in late and adds nothing to the party, and I'd rather if it just have been Lani because she has personality.
You also have the whole Necron problem where you're just like, oh yeah, beating Kuja,
Look,
Kuja's final boss.
mate,
Actually, I'm the final boss because I'm God. Yeah.
I didn't say it was perfect.
Oh yeah, it's the problem with Final Fantasy 9 is that it also had stuff cut, and you can tell with
Yeah.
that, where Necron comes in so quickly. Armorant had very little development at
Mhm.
all. But again, it's such a long goddamn game. It's 4 discs on a PS1. You just couldn't make it much bigger.
I don't think
I don't
games
know.
got bigger than that. I think 4 discs is the highest just amount of content I saw during that era.
I have
Yeah, and
go ahead.
I was gonna say, like, Final Fantasy VII had I can't remember if it was 3 or 4 discs, but
It
one
was
that,
3.
like, whatever the last disc is sort of only like using half the capacity as well. But yeah, like, you go then jump up to Final Fantasy VIII, and I think Final Fantasy VIII went to 4 discs, but
It
the
did.
last disc again was like half capacity. But then Final Fantasy IX is just it's all 4 discs jam packed. There is no more room.
And
I don't
then
know.
the most common complaint is I hate the way it looks and it breaks my heart
No,
every
I don't.
time.
I don't have a problem with that. I just, I just don't like the characters, and
That's fine.
that
I'm not
pulls me
judging
out of
you.
any video game that I do
I
not like the
am.
characters in.
I
Yeah,
just
100%. I'm a
that's fair.
character-driven gamer.
Yeah,
No,
I am
that's fair.
very
I just genuinely don't
character driven.
understand how you couldn't like Garnet and Zidane. I can kind of understand Steiner at the beginning, but he just that arc is so
Yeah.
good. Ico's obnoxious, but then you understand. The whole Bermesia and Clara segment. I don't get it. I don't
Like,
get it.
here's the thing. Okay, so I can just do this comparison. All right. In Abyss, there's only one character I hate,
Hey,
and that
look,
character changes
don't compare this to Abyss. Abyss has
immediately.
the single best character arc I've ever seen in a video game.
All right,
You're cheating.
but even with Luke being as bad as he is, or like getting the change that he gets, all right. There was a time when I first played Abyss that if I didn't have my friend there with me playing, I probably would have quit that game too because oh my god, that was horrible.
He
But
is actually such a pretentious little shit at the beginning, isn't he?
so when there's that one like it's the same thing with Zestiria, man. If I have to hear Lila go, "Oh, look at the little frog in the pond. Oh, I can't tell you about this thing that I actually probably can tell you about." God, man, I when characters are written very poorly, I'm just like, why? Or when they're just annoying, I'm just like that.
Yeah,
I
but
got
what's
through.
annoying for you might be charming for other people.
True, this
People
is
hate
true.
people hate Tipo from Exilia, and I still
I
stand by
love
he's the
Tipo.
best.
Actually, I love
He's the
Tipo.
best goddamn mascot in the series.
That's a lie. That's a lie because
Tipo rode
Rapide
that
is the
line
best
for a while.
Well,
Rapide
Rapide's
is
not the best
actually
mascot. He's just a dog.
what. That's the point.
He's just a dog
Uh,
that he doesn't really do anything that interesting. He's just a dog,
What?
man.
Oh my god! But he's a good boy.
he's the best item monkey on the team.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, like genuinely, I really thought I was going to dislike Tipo, and I also kind of by the end of it was like, yeah, go on, nom on his face. It's kind of endearing now.
Well, when you have someone like Tipo, and then like in like the next two games, you get a character like Bienfu.
Yeah,
It's
but
it's
I've
easy. It's easy to pick Tipo.
yeah, I've been thinking like with Bienfu, it's funny because he's clearly written to be unlikable.
Yeah.
So I think that like they actually just achieved their goal. Like people not
Yeah.
liking Bienfu was actually what they were going for.
She's like,
Yeah,
how we
to be
write
fair,
another little shit?
Velvet and Magilu also don't seem like
No, nobody
Yeah, well,
likes BFO.
people say that Bienfu is essentially the closest to a trader arc that
Yeah,
it has.
look.
and
If he
and
wasn't
he
so useless, he would have been.
and he couldn't even betray us correctly.
Yeah, see,
Uh,
and that's what I mean. Like, it's because it's yeah, you hate him, but I mean, there's got to be characters that you don't like as
Yes.
well, like on
yeah,
purpose, not just
yeah.
characters that you think are rubbish and forgettable.
Well, the problem is like it's in a cast where literally almost every character in that cast is really fucking good, and then
Yeah,
you have
I've
Very,
often
BFO.
very
said
strong.
that Berseria is probably the strongest cast overall, even though I don't really love any of them besides maybe Magilu.
Ah,
But I
a
think
man of
like to get
taste.
there, it's one of the strongest casts. I think just like the way they work together, the interplay. Yeah, it's a strong cast.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think. I mean, obviously, the writing team has years of experience at this point, and they've just been taking that and running with it. But also, they wrote characters that had like the same mindset from the beginning. There wasn't really a we need to see past each other's shortfalls type of thing. The game literally begins with, well, we're all bad guys, so might as well lean into that. And so because there's not that what's often considered cheesy and like this long drawn out unnecessary, let's learn to work together. It's just the whole crew kind of going, well, I like this Velvet chick. She's a bit rough around the edges, but I'm down to kill the church. Why not?
Yeah, I think it's also it's one of the anomalies in the series in that way because the series has always been experimental, but as we said, there's normally mainstays that you can rely on, and I think Berseria definitely flipped that on its head with with the way the story starts and the cast and who they are
Sure.
and the way the story progresses. And it's very much like the way I think about Exilia 2, which it has a silent protagonist, which, I don't think that's ever going to be a mainstay for the series, but they've done it. And I think it's the same with Berseria. Like, I don't think that that kind of having the team of bad guys or kicking off the story that quickly
Sure.
is going to be a mainstay of the series. But it's good that they give it a shot every now and then.
Yeah, I mean, it worked out. Worked out the time they did. So
Yeah, that
I
is.
I,
Became
I
my
have
favorite Tales game real
reservations.
quick.
I have the reservations of the silent pro tag for Zillia 2, but I also have just like general reservations about Zillia 2 in general. Um, it's not the best Tales game, but I mean, Symphonia 2 exists, so it's not the worst Tales game.
That's another thing. Symphonia 2 had like the monster collecting aspect, which is another thing. Like it's they do often
They
experiment,
experiment.
and it's
Yeah.
cool to give it a shot. You know.
Just not all the time. Like,
Yeah.
I won't get into Symphonia 2 because that's too long. So I did like the 4 or 5. Well, I'm in the middle of the fifth Tales game. It took me a month to get through Symphonia. That's how much I did not enjoy it. I sat here and was like, I could stream Symphonia tonight. Yeah, I'm not. I'm gonna play Final Fantasy 14 because I just don't. I did not enjoy playing this game at all. And you could easily tell because as soon as I hit Vesperia, I knocked that out in a week. I knocked Zestiria out in a week. I knocked Berseria out in a week. It was just bam, bam, bam. Like I was thinking, man, if I didn't take a month playing Symphonia, I could have done Graces. I could have done Zillia 1 and 2. I was like, holy moly.
But to be fair to you, you powered through it, and I'm proud of that.
Yeah, yeah. So I completed my my scheduled marathon. I'm just doing bonus of Zillia now,
And
which is
technically, it
fun.
never ends because after Zillia, you go straight into Arise.
Oh yeah, you're right. Yeah, true. Berseria. So I beat Berseria. I forgot how much of a Chad Laphicet becomes right at the end of that game. I half expected him to punch Velvet in the face when he was grabbing her hand while she was being sucked in to the black hole. Because I expected that he like grabbed her hand and I thought he was about to like fucking cold cock her in the face. I was waiting for it, and then I was like, oh wait, no, he doesn't do that. He just yells at her, which is good
Laffy
enough.
said is a pure boy.
Yeah. Oh, dude, man, he cold cocks Unomi not in the face.
Well, to be fair, he's justified in that.
He's like, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you. I so here's the thing. I have obviously everybody has reservations with Zestiria. It is definitely not the most or the best Tales game ever. There are some really big issues with it. I think going through Zestiria the second time and then going back through Berseria the second time, it is now like a high C, low B in my tier list of games
For which game now?
for Zestiria.
Oh, okay.
And that's only because of how they've expanded the world. Because honestly, I think Zestiria and Berseria has the best world in a Tales game since like maybe Abyss.
Yeah,
I think
having the advantage of being able to do it over 2 games is
yeah,
That's fair.
obviously helps that out.
and I think it's the best sequel prequel that they've ever done because Symphonia 2 doesn't exist and Zillia 2 has some problems, but I think in world wise it's the best sequel prequel they've done. And they've had 1,000 years in between each game to like really not make everything connected, but have everything connected enough where you can have some like obviously people are like Seraphim are called Malachim back in the day. They're not called. I mean, Artorias was like the first shepherd and all that.
Yeah,
I think
it's something that you can play standalone. Either
yeah.
one, you can play them in any order. But you play them both, and you just get that little bit extra.
And after playing Zestiria the second time, I saw a lot of things where like because a lot of people tend to think that, oh no, Zestiria, they made Berseria so they could save Zestiria. And I was thinking, I think when they were making Zestiria, they definitely planned on the whole like pretty much everything. Because there's a line that Zavid says in Zestiria where he calls Maltellus a baby boy. And lo and behold, Laphicet becomes Maltellus at the end of Berseria. So I think they planned that from a good bit into Zestiria's development. And then the whole thing of Zestiria, or the whole thing of Berseria was like literally based off of that one skit you get at the end of Zestiria where you go up to Innominat's like shrine or whatever, and it's like, oh, you think we should tell them? Nah, I don't think we should. And I'm like, come on, man. At least give me something.
Well, you got something.
Yeah, I got a full game.
You got a full game.
Yeah, well, I mean, I already spoke about the troubled development of Zestiria,
Yeah.
so obviously there were cuts there as well. During this period, like Grace's F, Exilia, Exilia 2, Zestiria, and Berseria, they were pumping out games, and they were on shoestring budgets and very tight timelines. So there was I guess it's telling that there are two. There's like a really direct sequel in Exilia 2, and there's a sort of a distant sequel set of games in this period.
Yeah. But I think the world itself is actually really well put together. There's nothing between Zestiria and Berseria that like immediately like disprove anything or like contradict each other. They all act pretty well and well in the same universe. So that's what I enjoyed about that. But I got through that. I played Zillia. I'm playing Zillia. I'm just at Neocare. I'm actually going through it really slow. I will not beat this game before Arise comes out. I might beat it after.
No, that attitude you won't.
It's just I mean, I have tomorrow off and I have Thursday off. I don't think I'll get my collector's edition on Thursday, so I could do like 24 hours. No, I'm not going to do that. But but yeah, that's what I did. Oh, actually, that's not what I did this week. I played a little bit of Need for Speed Underground 2 because I was no Need for Speed Underground because I was thinking about Need for Speed Underground and I was like, man, I really want to play it. So I like collected some things and
I put a lot of time into Need for Speed Underground 1 and 2 on GameCube back in the day.
Yeah,
man, it's still probably my favorite in the series. Maybe one of the earlier Hot Pursuit speeds it out, but I really did enjoy Underground.
Oh,
it's the closest thing to an RPG car folks are gonna get. And I mean, maybe not. They've probably come a long way since I stopped playing Sims.
And it's got one of the greatest like soundtracks because they just took a bunch of music and just like, okay, here's your guys' playlist. It must have
been so expensive.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, yeah, that's right. Because they had like Get Low.
Yeah, they had Get Low in the first one.
Yeah,
it's so good. I loaded that up and I started playing it and I was like, man, if I don't stop playing, if I don't turn this off, I actually will probably beat this game in like 2 sittings because I can just sit here and just go. I played a little bit of Monster Hunter Stories too. I've been slowly trying to like play that, but I know I hear that's a long game, so I'm gonna be in for a little wild ride there with that. But that's actually all I did this week.
Yeah, it's long and it'll take a little bit to grab you. Once it does grab you, probably
it already grabbed me. I played it and I was like, wow, I can play a better Pokemon. Fuck.
As a Monster Hunter fan, like even the demo did grab me. So I think this call's pretty good in that regard.
All right. So we do have a viewer question because Little said he was not missing this one.
Oh, all right. Hey.
And he's got a I don't know if anybody ever thinks of like how they would ever do this, but he asks if you could make your ideal JRPG from any franchise, which would you choose and how would you make it? Also,
but 10 already exists.
Yeah, also, hi Jay /Wave. So
Hi.
one of our watchers likes
So wait,
watching you.
um, well, thanks for watching me for a start. I still, like, I know, I have like, I don't know, what have I got, like 44,000 subs or something like that. I know I know it's a lot, but I still don't feel like I'm anyone. Like I often get asked to do things, podcasts or collabs and stuff, and people are scared to approach me.
Oh,
It's
I was like,
I'm literally nobody, and I'm still struggle to figure out why people watch my videos. But
so I sat here and was like, I need to get somebody for a Tales, because like while I can talk about Tales forever, I'm not as in depth, and I'm very opinionated when it comes to it. And then I was like, oh, you know what? I looked up your email and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'll just send him an email, whatever. What the worst he's going to do is not reply or say no. And then you replied. I was like, oh, okay. Well, I guess we're doing it, guys.
yeah, exactly. Not reply or I say no. But as long as like I have had requests that are really elaborate. As
Oh.
in it would take a lot of preparation on my part to do,
Oh.
and that's harder. Like because I can jump on a podcast, and I'm happy to do that for literally anybody. Because other than basic, oh, this podcast is about X, I don't have to like make a whole video. It's not like a
Oh, no.
collab in that way, and that's something I have to. I can't really commit to most of the time because I can barely keep up with my own release schedule. The release schedule doesn't really exist. So
I
yeah,
know that feeling.
that's always hard to commit to. But podcasts, I'm happy to do. So the question was, if you could make the perfect JRPG from any series, so you have to like pick a
Yeah,
series.
any series.
Well,
So
I guess you could probably mix and match.
Or you can make your own, or
Well, look, I mean, this is going to be. This might not answer the question, and I will try and answer the question if this doesn't answer it. But I've always, and this is going to be such a niche. Maybe it's not niche, but I've always wanted to play a game that is based on, or at least loosely based on, the 90s TV show. Wait, is it 90s? Probably early 2000s TV show. Let me look this up.
Well, what TV show is it that I could I could
This is going to
probably
be
guess?
really
So
interesting.
it's the late 90s early TV show Charmed.
Oh,
We can't be
yeah,
thinking of the same Charmed.
No, you're talking about the witch show, right?
Yeah, I'm talking about the Witch and Demon show, right?
Yeah.
It's
Oh,
it is quite literally my favorite show, I think, ever. I have a strange love for it. And I've always wanted to play a game based on it, not from the witch's perspective, but from a demon perspective, because in that universe, demons have to, they have human forms, and they have to they have to fit in the human world. So like some
Mhm.
of them do like become lawyers, and then they like reap. So I
Of
want
course
to do
they
that. I
become
want to
lawyers.
have like, I want to do that. I want to be like a demon. You have to like climb up the ranks both in the underworld and in the human world. I just think that would be so much fun.
That is a wild concept.
I would have never have
Boy,
guessed.
oh boy. I
And
wasn't
no,
prepared for Charmed.
I've never spoken about it before either. I love Charmed. I've spoken about it a couple of times here and there. I can recite every single storyline for that series, start to finish, all 8 series. But
Ooh.
it's yeah, I've never really spoken about the game idea before. I've just always wanted to do it.
Well, here you go, random publishers and
Yeah, make a
developers.
Charmed game. I
Make a
mean, they've got
Charmed game.
that new show that's not really even based on it. It's just got the same name.
Oh, yeah?
Like the
Well,
reboot, and that's like it's not very good. It's okay. I started watching it, but it's not the original.
you
So
heard it here
it
first,
can't be that hard
CW.
to license.
WB. Get on that.
Yeah,
WB, you
CW.
make games. Get on that Charmed RPG.
Yeah, quit making Harry Potter. Nobody cares about that.
That's certainly not
But
true.
I mean, the
Fair
problem
enough.
is that, like, if WB ever did make it, it would be definitely from the Witcher's perspective, and it would be
110%.
Yeah.
And it would be like a Harry Potter thing. It wouldn't be like a cool demon simulator.
Oh, yeah, that's fair. I just never would have never would have like Charmed is one of those random TV show pools that like you hear and don't take this wrong. My mother or a friend's older sister would pull out. I would have never have guessed that from any honestly anybody.
Yeah. I think I don't know, like I watched it as a kid, like me and my sister used to watch it as a kid, my younger sister. And I don't know. It's crazy because I probably watched my couple of favorite seasons every year. Probably I'll watch it through again, just mostly in the background while I'm doing other stuff, but it's on. And it's kind of surprising how well this old as hell TV show, like the special effects and stuff that they had access to, the rudimentary ones, how well it's
Mhm.
held up. I still haven't before or since seen a better flame in, flame out teleport as what I have seen in Charmed from like 2001.
That's saying something. My goodness.
I've never seen anything be as seamless as like when Cole Turner, one of the characters, when he becomes the source of all evil. This is spoilers for the whole series, by the way. But if anybody is going to go back and watch it, when he becomes the source like teleports with flame effects.
That's saying something. My goodness.
I've never seen anything be as seamless as like when Cole Turner, one of the characters, when he like flame teleport effects in Premiere Pro or After Effects or whatever, and you look up their examples, you're like, that looks shit, mate. Like I don't know how long you spent on this, but that looks garbage. These people managed to perfect it back in like 2001.
Damn. I bet I
All
have to
right,
watch Charmed
every
at some
other
point.
production company in the world, you've been put on blast.
Yeah.
You
Get
now
to it.
know what the bar is set at. Get on that.
Yeah, go and watch what episode like
I swear to
between
God,
it's
if you
series.
pull episode episode
If it's like
numbers out,
series 4, between series 4, it starts with Black as Phoebe is the episode title.
I don't even think I can pull. I mean, I can pull out some anime episode names, and like date and like numbers and all that stuff, but I don't think I ever can pull out a TV show.
Yeah, I mean that's something that I've watched to the extreme. There are certain things I've watched to the extreme. It's like Charmed, it's The Wizard of Oz, the original Willy Wonka. I
Well, the original
can
Willy
pretty much
Wonka is really good.
oh, isn't it? It's amazing. There are so many good quotes.
Yeah. Dollet, what would you do?
So for all the crap I give to games with bad stories and pandering, my favorite games are things like the original Dissidia. I just want Dissidia, but Final Fantasy X style turn based, and I realized that exists in Opera Omnia. But I want so much money thrown at this. I want 15, 16, Final Fantasy 16 level dollars thrown at this. I played Tales of the World. I'd like to see games like that as well. I'd love to see a Tales game that is just the best of the series in one game. Only, this time it actually comes to the West and I don't have to get it patched in English. I don't think I love anything quite as much as Jay loves Charm though. Now I'm feeling really indecisive about my answer. Because
No, no, I don't think anybody feels what I feel for Charmed about anything. So
oh yeah,
don't.
that's intense. I am, oof, I'm flustered now.
I
But
don't
no,
know.
like I think every RPG series should just have like a best of greatest hits, get all the leads, stuff them together, and make them interact with each other.
Mm-hmm.
Did you play World of Final Fantasy?
I did. I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was one of the best Final Fantasy in
It's
years, to be honest.
super
It's
charming.
yeah, super charming, and it's not quite, Dissidia level stuff. But it does have some
It's the same
crossover stuff.
concept. It's the
Yeah.
thing. It's the thing that brought me to Dissidia. It's the thing that brought me to World of Final Fantasy. It's the thing that brought me to Kingdom Hearts. All of these characters interacting with each other. It's always really fun. And in games like this, I know to turn off my let's be hypercritical about this.
Yeah. Yeah, because you can forgive stuff when you know it's a silly crossover.
Yeah, it's just good
Yeah.
fun. Enjoying the video? Remember to like and sub. Helps out the channel a bunch, and we're grateful for everyone we get. So, I mean, like, honestly, the idea of me sitting down having Scowl, Clud, and Zidane on a team as they go and fight their individual baddies in a turn. Oh, I'd love that. I love that. And I'd love to be able to play as Jude and uh, bloody Velvet and Judith. Would make me very happy. I know two of those aren't actual leads, but let me have this.
Hey, man.
Yeah, see, I would be, if I had to make a game like that, it would just include almost no leads. I don't know why, I just don't generally like lead characters in really any series.
I have a soft spot for them. They're all big dumb idiots.
It probably started like being, a kid growing up in the 90s was Dragon Ball Z, and yeah, everybody loved Goku, but I was just
yeah.
straight Vegeta man.
Well,
You
I mean,
made the correct decision.
So
So
the
like, I
person
don't know
that
if that's
asked,
what started.
yeah. The person that asked the question, or whatever, ironically enough, his name is Little Vegeta. So he's a big
Yeah.
Vegeta fan.
I mean, I got a big Vegeta tattoo on my forearm. One of the few non-gaming ones that I have.
Oh man.
You love to hear it when a good creator has good takes.
Yeah,
Take that
definitely. So I never think about what video game I would make, or like any like, or like, man, I wish I could make a video game or anything, or like what JRPG aspects I would like in a video game. But maybe on brand for this episode, and this is more of a wish list, not a wish list, but like a wish list item. How about that? If I were to make another Tales game, all right, I would set it either before Berseria or in between Berseria and Zaciria, because there is so many questions that do not get answered in this fucking series, or in these two games, that I would like, or that I would like answered, or I'd like to see. And that would just be the story, because like honestly I want to like a story, or like maybe like obviously we're not going to get a DLC or anything like that, but like maybe like a little mini DLC for like what happened during like Clauden's time in Berseria, because obviously, Artorias and Melchior came from Clauden when they were out doing whatever the fuck they were doing, and then when Clauden died, that's when like they decided to come up with this plan.
Mate, as someone who asked for more from his favorite game and
Yeah.
got it twice and was
I know.
disappointed
I know.
twice,
I
you
know.
don't want this.
No, I mean I do want this, and I'll take the bad.
Will you take one of your favorite characters? Well, not favorite characters. One of the characters from this thing that you've created, kicking a ball and having it explode. Will you take this?
I mean, if it's Artorias, then yeah, okay, because Artorias is a piece of shit. But like that's why I said before Berseria, like, so characters aren't, because like, okay, so here's the thing, right? They cannot do anything too horrible like that if you set it before the cool characters in Berseria come in, or you set it in between Berseria and Zaciria, where one of the big plot points, how Aizen turns into a fucking dragon, which
slowly over time.
It's because of the malevolence. Come on.
I know it's because of the malevolence.
Probably very rapidly one
because
morning.
Because of the malevolence, Aqua.
He just woke up and suddenly had an insatiable hunger.
But like, we know. I mean, okay. I don't think it was one day he woke up and then he turned into a fucking dragon, right? Something had to have happened to really trigger it. All right.
Yeah, he gave up.
Yeah, but I need them to say it. I don't need it to be implied. I don't want it to be implied.
I don't know, man. I read into his personality pretty hard. I was like, oof. Oh boy, how long is he gonna last? Turns out,
He's
about 1,000
he
years.
seemed very happy
Did he
at the end
though?
of.
Did
He
he
did. He
ever
was
seem happy?
Okay,
he
at the end, fair enough.
he did seem happy. He sat. He was sitting on the mast of the ship, smiling down at Benwick and the others.
Yeah, for 1,000 years, watching all of his friends and family and new friends and new members of the ship die. Yeah, grand.
That's
I'd last 1,000 years, sure.
Then say it. Don't. I hate implications. I
No,
hate
I think
implications.
it'd be fun. I still have to go play Mysteria, I guess.
I want to see what Eleanor does as the actual first good shepherd, because
We
we
don't know
know
that,
that.
do we?
We don't. Yeah, we don't know that. We know about like the history where there was a shit ton of shepherds, and how that went to hell, which is why Zisteria existed. Or, we don't know anything. We don't know like the adventures of Magilu because she became the storyteller Maven, and descended that down the line for like 1,000 years. So, I mean, we all know what Rokuro was doing. His last scene was beating up a bunch of fucking demons with both of his Stormhowl swords.
You don't get to call yourself a Yaksha and not fight to the end.
We know what happens to Delafi set. He becomes, attached to Heldolf and turns into a giant, Hellion.
God,
yeah.
so
Well, I mean,
sad.
there are definitely a lot of unanswered questions, and I mean, it's come up with Tales of Arise a lot. Like, is this connected to Zestiria and Berseria? Because everyone thought that like Shion was Lila because
Their
at a
designs are
glance,
very
it was
similar.
vaguely similar. I mean, really, like, I know that people say that, but I think you really just have to look a little bit closer because
Yeah.
They
they really
both have
look a lot
ponytails. That's
different.
it.
Yeah, that like, and people point out like little similarities here and there, but like Shion's wearing armor and Layla's not. Like
Yeah.
they're like the silhouettes. Okay, the silhouette are similar, but they're very, very different characters. But a lot of people have been asking about Zestiria and Berseria because there are obviously a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of places you could go.
This was not one of the questions I had written down. I didn't even know this was a thing.
Well, I mean, I didn't know people were comparing it. I did have when I looked at Shion, I was like, "Hey, look, I think her design is very heavily inspired by Lila, but obviously they're two different people."
Well, I don't know if because the art director and character designer for Arise is Minoru Iwamoto, and
Yeah.
he did most of the characters in Zestiria, I think, but I don't know if he specifically did Lila or not. I know that he did Edna,
The
the
good
best
one.
character,
Yeah, the good
the
one.
best character in all of Tales.
It's true.
So,
I don't know that in all of
I don't
Tales, but yes.
I don't know if she's got the best design. She's the best character just because she's the funniest one. But yeah, I don't know who has the best design. I probably have to think about that a lot. No, I wouldn't. It's Gaius. What am I talking about? Gaius in Exilia outfit, not in Exilia
Exilia.
2 outfit.
Oh, well, I mean, we had Leek
I
draw.
guess I don't mind
I
Mongol
gave
lady.
Oh yeah.
Leek.
No, look, I know, I understand why you did that because seriously, his other outfit is ridiculous to draw. It's very complicated. So,
I gave her both.
It's much easier.
I gave her both designs.
Yeah.
And I said
No,
you
I mean,
can
I
choose
don't
Mongol
dislike the
leader.
Exilia 2 one, but holy crap, his Exilia design I think is amazing. Like that's another one of the tattoos I have is Gaius in that outfit on my arm.
Damn, super Tails fan over here.
Oh, that's yeah. I mean, I could list them off. I got Agria as well from Exilia, and Kratos in Judgment outfit from Symphonia, Colette's Crucius Crystal from the Symphonia anime, and Edna as well. That's the most recent.
It's a good addition.
Yeah. But for gameplay wise, for this game, I would obviously be a mixture of Berseria and Zestiria system. Almost everything in Zestiria needs to be canned because that equipment system is garbage. Like,
Oh yeah,
I don't
that's the
know.
worst.
I don't understand I don't understand what the thought process behind it was.
Yeah,
What'd you say?
they were trying.
Yeah.
They were trying to do. I think Grace Zeph started
Yeah.
that kind of system.
Mm-hmm.
But like the Grace Zeph one made sense, and Zesteria's does not.
Mm-mm. I didn't want to play
So like,
tic-tac-toe with my equipment.
yeah, that was just I don't know what they were really going for there. That was just a bad move. I prefer uh if they I mechanical wise, so if they had a better camera, I prefer the combat in Zestiria over Berseria.
I can
If
see
if
that
if
because
they
it's more
just went,
Tails.
if they went to normal battle arenas and didn't fuck around with the camera, um,
Yeah.
I just prefer Zestiria. I do prefer that style, even though in terms of preferences, I do not like art trees. Like I'm an anti-art tree uh, Tails fan.
How
Okay.
about
Yeah.
someone who's a little less familiar with the series? I guess. What do you mean art tree?
So in Berseria, where you have where you're able to set up like each face button to be like your arts or whatever,
Yeah.
and you can press X and then triangle and then circle and then square. That's like an art tree because it's like going in a mismatched order. It's not like you uh holding up in square or up in circle to do
Oh,
that or down
okay.
in circle.
I see. I see. I see.
Um,
I
Yeah,
see.
and they're more the art trees are more restrictive in Zestiria, but Grace's F has the most restrictive art
yeah,
trees. Whereas,
yeah,
yeah, like if you press X and then X again, and it will just do the next art, and then X again will
Yes.
do the next art, and then you might be able to press circle then because it splits off and you go up to. I don't like those art trees because if anything, I just find them restrictive. And
mhm,
Berseria wasn't restrictive, but at that point, because it was like sort of art trees but not restrictive, it did become Tails is often, I think, unfairly criticized for being button mashy when most of the series isn't. But Berseria
yeah,
is probably the closest you get to actually just being button mashy.
yeah. I can agree with that. Even though I enjoy Berseria's battle system because honestly, probably because it is button mashy, and then you might end up you'll get down to the line where you're like, I'm actually doing like a pretty high hit combo here, because I'm just like
Yeah, exactly.
spamming.
I don't think it's I don't didn't hate it. But yeah, it's definitely it's not my preferred style. I say
Yeah,
it's like an art tree system, and I don't like art trees to begin with. But yeah, it is
no,
what
I
it
can agree
is.
with that. I can agree with that. I think
If
I think
not
Vesperia.
for Arise, I would agree with you because Arise felt super good. But yeah, no, I definitely have a preference for Vesperia and now Zillia's system, or specifically, I think it's genuinely just because of Jude. That system more than Berseria.
Oh yeah, I think I don't really know. I probably couldn't pick out my favorite because there are I like a lot of the different battle systems, but Auxilia is definitely up there. It's if I had to pick just one, it's probably my favorite combat of the series.
I'll again take the hot take path of this because I'm pretty sure you just said you really didn't like you probably didn't like Grace's F, but I actually think Grace's F has the best battle system.
It's a common take. I hear it all the time. I've not played
Yeah,
the
I
game yet
often hear it
though.
as well, and it was like a big change, like going from the way it used to work into the art tree system and being such a restrictive art tree system. But um, it's now become art trees are at least a reoccurring theme. Like as
Yeah.
it's not going to be in everyone, like Twin Worlds, like trader characters, but it's going to be in some. I have no doubt they'll you know re try it again.
Well, thank God they're not doing it for Arise because the Arise system is
Well, yeah,
pretty good.
Arise's system is super fun, and it's there's not a whole lot that's brand new. Like boost attacks, sure, and boost strikes. They're sort of just like Mystic Arts, really.
Yeah.
There's
Yeah.
not super things that are new, but they've just taken aspects from a lot of different battle systems. Like Grace's F, yeah, it had the archeries, but another big part of that was the sidestepping in the 360 around the enemies.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
Yeah.
the dodge system
dodging
feels
was
so good.
the
The
dodging
dodge.
was a big thing, and they've just
Yeah.
taken that aspect and put it in Arise. And boss battles in Arise are, a lot of paying close attention and resource management, like the older ones, like Fantasia and Eternia. You've got elements of Exilia. You've got it's just a big mashup. It's kind of and it's weird saying it because you don't like Final Fantasy IX, but it's kind of like the Final Fantasy
No.
IX of the Tales series at the moment.
It's
I
like
mean,
good food for my soul.
it's you can have the comparison, all right. It's just like okay. The big thing I didn't like
Oh
about
yeah, it's
nine was
like
just the
Final Fantasy IX,
characters.
but with better characters.
Yeah, you
See,
see,
problem solved.
problem solved. You put good characters in a video game, I'm down with it. All right.
Well, that's fine because I'm gonna love it either way.
I guess this is a good enough segue from our question.
Yes, it
Thank
is
you,
about
Little,
that
for
time.
for this question. So, Jay, where would you? Because you've got the platinum for the game, so I think you can go ahead and say you've completely beaten this game. Where does this rank? Where does Arise rank at the moment? In your
Well,
recency bias.
see, I don't think I can I don't think I could really say. I don't think I could. One, I don't think I could really even place it at the moment because I'd really have
Okay.
to think about it more.
Sure.
Yeah.
But
that's fair.
also too, with embargoes the way they are, you're not supposed to give, like,
Oh, okay. Yeah. True. Yeah.
objective notes. Like I can say that, like it's upper.
Upper. Okay.
It's not something It's not something I've come out of as disappointed or anything like that.
You've enjoyed your time, is what you're saying.
Yes.
Oh, you sounded
Okay.
so broken up on when we asked you on.
Yeah. I know.
I actually have a question too, and I think mine will be a bit more technical off the bat. What platform did you run this on, first and foremost?
I did. I played. So I platinumed for PS5. I was planning to play on PC, and I have been playing on PC. Now, like in most recently in the last sort of few days. But the PC codes were delayed. It was just a
Okay.
problem. There was just a problem with them. I think they were having troubles with the DLCs or something like that. So
I hate to hear it.
like my rep knows me and knows how big of a Tales fan he was. So like he called me up. I think it was, I don't know. I think it was about midnight or something on like not last Friday, the Friday before. He said like, look, we've got PlayStation codes now, and I can give you one, but you might have to wait till like Monday, Tuesday for PC ones. I said, yeah, just give me that.
I can't
And then
blame
like
you for it.
I was thinking, like at the time, I'm thinking, oh well, I can start playing it now, and if the PC code's coming on Monday, I can just switch over. But like by the time Monday came around, I was 50 hours in or whatever.
I'm too addicted.
Yeah, into
Just
deep
like-
to start over now. No, I mean
Yep.
that's fine. Actually wasn't expecting to hear both. I wasn't sure if that was a common enough thing. So
Well, I don't think it would, like for a big outlet, it probably would be. But generally, it's just well, what platform is your preferred,
sure.
and you take what you're given. And
Yes.
if they run out of those codes for whatever, oh, you wanted to play on PlayStation, but we've run out of those. Sorry, would you like another one? Yeah, you sort of just take what you're given. But the way, I'm lucky in the sense that I'm in Australia and I'm one of the only content creators around here in these parts that actually covers
Yeah.
niche Japanese games, or not even just Japanese games in general. So I'm lucky in the sense that I generally can get my pick, and unlucky in the sense that this country sucks for most
Yeah.
things.
Yeah.
I
Like
can understand where that's coming from.
price wise, availability wise, and the people I deal with who I absolutely like, my Bandai Namco reps are the greatest people in the entire world. They also distribute for Square Enix here, so they're Square Enix and Bandai Namco and NIS America and a bunch of other little niche
So
companies
busy.
that don't have their own publishing places over here. And Bandai Namco Australia isn't like an official Bandai Namco publisher; they're just a distributor. So like there are certain things where I'm at a disadvantage in that, maybe review codes for a certain game go out 2 weeks ago, but we only get them here. Like they only get them in at Bandai Namco Australia a week out from release. So like, yeah, it swings and roundabouts. I do feel lucky because obviously, um, I have the opportunities that I do, but sometimes those opportunities aren't ideal.
Yeah,
Understandable.
we have another Australian content creator friend that primarily does a lot of Square Enix stuff, and he honestly says the same exact thing. So
Yeah, they do their best, but I say like because they're not official publishing houses, they're just distributors at the end of the day. So, like when I reached out, in regards to that censorship rumor for Tales of Arise, like I reached out to my rep, but then like he can't give me the answer. So he has to reach out to head office, which is Bandai Namco Europe, and like they have to obviously then put that as a priority to even bother with, because, so like often things like that, take extended times. It's fun, but they work a lot, especially I often feel very privileged.
well, that's good.
Oh, what a humble
Um,
take. What a laugh.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think here, because I don't want you to say anything embargo wise. So do you have a? 'Cause I also don't want to say anything that'll criticize the game either. How long into this game did you get hooked, or was it right off the bat?
Oh, I mean, yeah, immediately.
Immediately, okay.
I was hooked, like preview wise. Like when the initial preview months and months ago was the demo, right?
Mm-hmm.
That you guys got. It was a little bit less refined at the time. There wasn't the secret boss and that kind of
Mhm.
thing in it at the time. But I went in and I played the hell out of it. It was supposed to be like the actual session was supposed to be, like had the world not been in the state that it is at the moment with restrictions and stuff like that, it would have
Yeah.
been a group session where you go in and you each play the demo through and you leave, a half an
Yeah.
hour session. But it was one-on-one sessions. Obviously I know everyone there. I played it through over and over. But every character, like I played through that demo. Um, so back then I was like, I wasn't hooked. I wouldn't say I was hooked, but I was like, wow, it feels so much like Tales, and I love every bit of it. There's nothing I hate in this game. I loved the combat coming out of it. And then the next preview was a chunk of the first chapter. Like it didn't pick up right from the beginning, but it's very close to the beginning, and it goes to the first boss, Balsef. And I was just hooked then. Like that was it. I was done.
Yeah, the infamous no stagger boss.
Yeah, the infamous no stagger boss. No, like that's something like like the criticism that came up. I understand we didn't mean stagger, he meant hit stun, which is
Oh
like
yeah.
regular enemies. But I like the more I think about it, I think like, well, I don't understand the criticism of, well, that this is somehow going to make bosses less, like you have less options somehow, or it's less dynamic. But I just think but bosses with hits done, pretty much they just feel like every other encounter. There's nothing special about a boss fight in most Tales games.
I
It's
had mentioned that actually. I'm happy to hear you say it. When this initially came up, I don't know however long ago it was. I remember writing something very similar to that effect, which was maybe that's just their way of getting out of. Bless his heart, Omega puts out grand videos, but he really does make some of those bosses seem so trivial as he sits there juggling them for like the entire time.
Yeah, well, like, I saw that the one of the criticisms was, oh, well, this puts you into just a very samey loop of, you're attacking and then you dodge and then you keep attacking. But but the loop before was permanently stun lock boss until
Yes.
he goes into over limit,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
then you run around to avoid the mystic art. And then when he
Yeah.
gets out of overlimit, you do it all over again. Like that
Yeah.
was extremely predictable. And bosses did often fall flat in terms of just they didn't really feel like boss fights. So yeah, they've the battle system in Arise, um, for larger enemies like bosses, they have a stagger mechanic, and they have break mechanics, and they have like special contextual things as well. So one of the things I talked about from the preview was the boost attacks all do things like um, Rinwell's interrupts casting enemies and steals the spells they were casting.
Mhm.
And Alphen's just in general it does a
Staggers.
stagger or a
Yeah.
knockback.
Yeah.
And Shion's knocks down or staggers flying enemies. And in the Balsef boss fight, Balsef jumps into the air to do a big axe attack. And while he's in the air, you can use Shion's boost attack, which then pops up a separate trigger to do like a contextual boost attack where she literally like shoots him out of the sky and knocks him down. So like there are staggers in that you deal a certain amount of damage in a certain amount of time. He falls back a little bit. Certain things have a higher chance of staggering depending on your penetration, like if you do perfect dodges and attack again. So you've got those staggers, you've got contextual staggers, you've got core breaks. So when you actually knock down all of their armor thing, they
Sure.
get knocked down for a
Yeah.
little while. Like they've added in all these controllable ways, or at least semi-controllable ways of knocking down the boss. Uh, they just can't get permanently stun locked like
No,
every other
this is
crappy
brilliant.
pleb enemy.
This is brilliant. And this makes for the most diverse gameplay
That Tales
for
game's probably
me.
ever had.
Maybe not. Maybe some other folks are a bit more familiar, a bit more comfortable with it. But for me, I play through a Tales game for the story. Maybe I go back and play through it once or twice more, unless your name is Abyss, in which case I go back fairly regularly. But in just the demo, I was boom, Rinwell for this, swapping to Alfred up close, swapping to Kisara. Not speaking about the boost attacks, but I mean like legitimately, there were things that
Quick
would
swapping.
just that would just like it felt right to actually switch to this character. Like, this character is actually the best in this scenario, and not just because I've sent their stats through the roof.
Yeah.
And it's the first time I've had that feeling in a Tales game. I love Vesperia. I love Berseria. I played as the pro tags through all of it. Vesperia, I would then go back and I also did like an Estelle run, and I've tried Judy run, but you just get her so late. Um, but like this is the first game where I've been like, no, oh goodness, this got really rough. I'm gonna pop off to Rinwell. I'm suddenly gonna play range combat until I feel safe again, and then boom, right back in as Doeline into that mid range. No, it was grand. It's easily the most interesting combat I've seen, and I've seen the old idea of just juggle the boss until he overlimits, run him out of that time frame, and then get him back up again. And
Unless
that
you're
is
fighting Duke, because
well,
he'll just Mystic Art whether you're near him or not.
well, that's fair actually. Um, and I definitely see the matter why people like that. It's familiar, and that in its own way takes a lot of skill. I'm very bad at that, but
Oh yeah, 100%.
I I cannot fault the company for going, let's take another approach to this and let's add as many mechanics to an actual fight as is possible so that they all genuinely feel dynamic based on the mob.
Yep.
And the problem is that I think that people think that because, the bosses that we've seen so far don't have, they can't be permanently hit stunned, that you're going to lose that interaction of being able to get a big enemy with lots of health and do a massive combo on them, permanently hit stunning them. But it's not lost from the game. There
Brilliant.
are
Something for
there
everyone.
are like even in the first chapter, there are more or less like it's what you would call, I guess, mini bosses. They're not really mini bosses, but there are certain enemies that are like not even elites or special. They'll just be in a pack of mobs. It might be a group of guards or whatever, but one of the guards is like the elite red captain or whatever. and he's got lots of health. So it's literally there. He's there so he can be your punching bag, so you can get
You
those
can
experiences.
indulge.
Yeah. So like the main thing that I've tried to come across with Arise and explain to people in Arise is you've got to look at the bigger picture, because you're losing certain things where they were, but you're gaining them elsewhere. Like, okay, no more 2D skits, but that doesn't mean those interactions aren't elsewhere. It doesn't mean that there isn't lots of 2D stuff in the game either. There's lots of 2D animation, and we've already been told it's got the most 2D animation of any Tales game so far. You got to look elsewhere. They're being very faithful, but they are trying new stuff.
In the vein of taking away only to put back in another form, how are we feeling about the CP versus TP situation?
Well, I think I like the CP the way it is.
Mhm.
I don't, because I think it just simplifies the whole thing. When you've got uh some characters that can, like when you've got casting characters, right, in other games, you've got healers and they can also do damaging spells. So you've got Rain, who does Ray and everything else like
Yes.
that, but she also does a lot of heals. And the problem with having a singular TP that's just there and it's for all spells and it's for basically everything the casting characters can do, you often had to then go into the strategy and say, well, look, Rain, don't ever use damaging spells. Like
Because your
you
TP is so
have to.
valuable.
Yeah, you have to do that. So I like the fact that CP is just a shared pool and it's for all healing abilities. So Shion Shion can sit there and absolutely wail on the enemies, and Rinwell can do the exact same. And Dolhim, uh, they can do all that, but then they can start healing whenever they want to. You don't have to worry about that. And I like the fact that it's a shared pool, because it just means one orange gel, good.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree
I
with
like.
that.
I think it just streamlines the whole thing. CP is
I
also
agree.
used outside of combat. Um, it's used for in the first dungeon, um, there's like flaming walls in Balsef's palace or whatever, and you can suck them away with Alpin's sword.
Yeah, I did see
Um,
that in one of
Oh.
the trailers.
and
Mm,
that costs CP. So there's another element that they put in with CP, in that, yeah, it's sort of it's like the versus reward thing. So
that's
there
cool.
there is a part in the dungeon where there are two paths, and one path is there's a flaming wall that you have to use CP for, and the other path has a lot of enemies down it. So like you can choose, well, do I want to skip these enemies because I don't feel like fighting them, or do I want to save this? So there's another element that they put in with CP, in that, yeah, it's sort of it's like the versus reward thing. So
That's
there
cool.
there is a part in the dungeon where there are two paths, and one path is there's a flaming.
Okay. Uh, I know. Cause so when I was going through Syria, I pretty much throughout half the game popped the holy bottle because I just don't like interacting with that game half the time. But when I swapped over to Berseria, I used a holy bottle once in that game, and that was just in the final dungeon, and that was because I was trying to collect all the mystic arts, and I didn't really want to fight anything outside of the bosses to get the third mystic arts.
Yeah.
And I'm just like, I don't think, at least from what I played in the demo, I don't think I'm gonna want to use a holy bottle. That's to say if there's even holy bottles in this game. Um, are there holy bottles in this game?
I couldn't tell you.
Okay.
But I think you should be able to. I think you can see from the demo, even from the
Oh
demo
yeah,
wise,
true.
it's
It's
much
easy
easier
to.
to control. Yeah, it's much easier to control your enemy encounters in Arise, because you do have to get close before they start chasing you.
Yeah, true. That is fair. I didn't. I
But
never
realistically, it's
ran
our first
into.
playthrough. We're gonna run into all of them.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Every
No,
single
no.
one.
Easily. I need to maximize my my gameplay
Hmm.
with that. Uh, so this is a very very subjective um question because I really don't like Law's voice actor.
Oh,
Dollet
boy,
agrees
here
with
we
me on
go.
this one.
I don't either, but I didn't expect this to come up. Not here.
Is Law
Yeah,
at least a good character?
well, see, I didn't know that people didn't like what's his name, Bryce
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 Papenbrook.
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 Yeah.
Yeah, and I didn't know that people disliked him. But I guess I haven't. Apparently, most people dislike him because of overexposure. Because he voices apparently a lot of stuff in anime and games,
Yeah,
and
he
he only
does.
really has the one voice.
Just the one.
So, so like I can definitely understand that. To me, in terms of like the voice for Law, like before I heard it, it's what I imagined he would sound like. You know, like teen boy kind of angsty. You know, like that's what I thought his voice was fitting, but obviously that doesn't help with Bryce Papenbrook overexposure.
No, yeah, no, it doesn't.
Um, but in terms of like character wise, like from the demo and from the first chapter, like I'm 100% a Shion simp.
Oh yeah,
Shion. I
We
keep
are in
calling him
agreement.
Shion because
yeah, we are.
I was so confused about the pronunciation of Shion in the early days because we didn't know what it was going to be, and at first
Mhm.
people thought it would be like Shion,
No,
but
it's
it is
Shion. Yeah,
Shion
Shion.
rather than
Shion.
Shion.
Okay.
Yeah, Shion. Um, yeah, so I'm 100% a Shion simp. And like in terms of combat wise, I enjoyed probably Alphen the most. Um, as far as like even just from the first chapter preview, Alphen's probably one of my favorite main protagonists.
It's
Because I
because he's an
generally do not
adult.
like main protagonists,
It's because
but
he's an adult. Yes.
no, not
I
even
mean,
that.
maybe
I
yeah,
like
maybe that's not your bias.
children
So fair
characters
enough.
most of the time, but he's just not he's not as, at least he's not in the beginning, um you know, one of those he's not a Lloyd.
Yeah, I
Oh,
imagine
thank
not.
God.
Especially
He's
given.
more of a
Don't be so.
Yuri than a Lloyd, but he's not quite a Yuri either because he's not super edgy to the point of, and he's not that. Um,
Yeah.
but he's just different, and he's one of my more preferred main protagonists. I to be honest, in terms of in terms of first chapter and demo, I didn't really take to Law all that much. Not that I thought he was bad or anything, but um, I thought his combat was okay, but it's not really my type of combat, I guess. Like
No.
his playstyle.
I think he has the
Um,
weakest combat, honestly. From what I played at the demo, I think he might
yeah,
have the
I
weakest
mean
out
it's
of
there,
the
like
six.
it's definitely there. Like it's he's supposed to be the, like the rogue type, the dual wielding rogue type.
Yeah.
He's like the Jude, but the problem is that, well, Alphen Alphen is not exactly slow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like there's,
Yeah.
sort of a limited difference between the two because like Alphen is also good at mid-air combat, and Alphen is also has a lot of quick attacks, and Alvin just feels better, especially because his boost attack is a lot more valuable as well.
Oh, yeah.
Um, well, I mean,
What
Lord's is
does
valuable because
laws do? Did
it
that break defense or something?
it breaks armored enemies. So,
Okay, yeah.
well, and not just armored, but it is like enemies that have a shield in general. So, like, I'm trying to think. The those little armadillo-looking things.
Yeah. Yeah. Those things.
They have like a shield, and you hear like if you're playing Alpha or somebody else and you're trying to attack them, they're like, "Oh, I can't get through," and then Law will be like, "Oh, I can bust him up."
Yeah.
Like, yeah, okay, cool, do that, man.
All right, you're in. Now go out.
Yeah, yeah, you're in. You're in for like just the boost attack, and then you can go away.
Yeah. I
Yeah,
every time I got in, I swapped him out of my party for either like Kisara or Dolan because I was like I don't need you in my party, Law.
yeah,
I
I
need you to
definitely
be
don't.
there.
Yeah, I definitely don't hate him. I don't think he's a bad character or anything like that. Yeah, I'd say like his playstyle didn't really click with me while Alphen is there covering most of his playstyle, but it just feels a bit better to play. And yeah, I think that comedy wise and just writing wise in general, he'll play an important function to just elevate everyone else. Like that,
Okay.
there's that one skit that was released with and I put a clip of it up on my Twitter where like he's asking Renwell about like what she talks about, like why
Yeah.
she
Yes.
reads these things off.
Yes.
That cracked me up. Like
And
the
then she
when she
blasts him.
summons lightning, yeah. I just told yeah. So like I think yeah, he's gonna play that important role where he's gonna be there. He's gonna be like, rushing in, not he's gonna be like the Lloyd,
Yeah, that's
which is
fair.
important. It's an important role to fill. You want somebody to put the
Just
party in
not be a
compromising
main
situations by like
protagonist.
not thinking. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Just don't be the main guy.
Yeah. Uh, yeah. It's just because like when they released like the partial list of because I don't know who Kisara or Dohalim's or Renwell's voices are. And I saw Bryce's name on there, and I was just like, man. And then I listened to who his voice is in Japanese, which is Yoshisugu Matsuoka, who does like a lot of the good voices in Japan. And I'm just like, why do they always pair Bryce Papenbrook with this guy? Because like now I just want to click on Japanese voices because I don't want to hear him. And I'm just like,
Yeah, it definitely is a problem. Like, I mean, yeah, it's a problem because he has been in a lot of other Tales games as far as I can tell as well.
he's Asbel.
Yes.
He's Asbel.
Yeah, yeah, there you go. Yeah,
And Yoder in Vesperia.
yeah. So like, and they do like to, I guess, reward voice actors like that. Like, if they've been in other games, they do a good job. You keep them
Yeah.
around and you give them other roles. But yeah, as I say, it can be a bit of a problem when this particular guy has a sort of limited range. It does get to the point of overexposure. But I think I have that same issue with like the biggest big, like Troy Baker, where his range is pretty limited. Like you can always tell it's Troy Baker as soon as
True
he's
enough.
voicing a
Yeah.
character.
With
So
one
like, but
exception, I agree with that.
and like his performances are not bad. They're very good, and that's why he gets so many jobs. But yeah, it becomes a point where overexposure um, can be a problem in that way. Like a good voice actor will get lots of roles, and you hear them over and over again, and it's hard to separate the characters you know them as prior to the one they're playing now.
Yeah. I like how Ray Chase becomes the antagonist in one Tales game, and then next Tales game he becomes the protagonist. So it's
Yeah, I
like
thought that was funny as well.
he's like, I can't be screaming Velvet in this game. Damn.
Oh, well, he could. It would just seem rather out of place, wouldn't it?
Yeah, actually it would. Yeah.
There's got to be one line that that's referenced. I'm sure. Come
That'd be
on,
funny.
English translation. You've got to have got me on this. Just one offline.
So
But
here's an obscure Tales voice actress fact. I guess it's really only interesting for me in a way, but Agria in Tales of Exilia.
Yeah.
oh, was that Kate
So
Higgins?
Yeah, I think it is Kate Higgins. No, that's Pressa. Pressa's Kate Higgins, if I recall correctly.
Oh, okay.
yeah, I'll have to look up the name, but it's the exact same voice actress who voices Sailor Mercury in the Sailor Moon dubs. And I have both an Agria and a Sailor Mercury tattoo, and I did not know that prior to having both of those tattoos.
Oh. Oh wow, that's
So I'm like,
that
wait a minute. It's like, because Sailor Mercury, I like, another thing that I'm obsessed with is Sailor Mercury, and Sailor Mercury specifically. And yeah, so that was quite odd for me.
well, I mean, there's all these happy little coincidences in life. Dollet,
Now,
who
hold tight.
voices Lightning? Who voices Lightning?
No, that's who voices. That's who voices Pressa. That's
Yeah,
Kate.
that's what I was. Yeah,
That is uh, I've met the beautiful woman. Ali
Allie.
Hillis. Ali Hillis. I got
Yeah,
there. I
Allie
got
Hillis.
there.
There you go. Yeah. Um. Yeah. I mean, I think the voice cast, from what I've heard outside of Bryce, is pretty good. So I'm not gonna. It's only when LOL's on the screen that I'm gonna probably cringe a little bit. So I will accept this. I know it's very hard for It's very hard for me to get through. Um,
I
do
actually
you have
got two
any?
questions.
Okay.
Because I'd like to at least one of them answered now while it's fresh in my mind, because I have to ask this question. And I'm sorry, because I don't mean to yuck anyone's yum, but
Mm-hmm.
Agria.
Oh.
Agria? Question
Yeah.
mark?
Yeah. He likes Agria. I don't know why.
Oh yeah,
I'm not
I
here to
love
say
Agria
you're wrong. I am curious as to why you feel this way.
because she's a fucking crazy psychopath.
Okay.
Okay,
Whoa.
fantastic. All right.
Okay.
I
Do you
like,
like Zagi? Do you like Zagi?
yeah, of course. I mean,
Okay.
okay, here's the thing. I just like an unpredictable crazy girl who could definitely kick my ass. That's
Okay,
just
no,
my
this is fine.
type.
Yes. Yeah.
Like I said,
That's
I
good.
wasn't here to yuck your yum because I had a feeling this was going to be your yum. I just needed to know for certain
I mean,
because it caught me off
not
guard.
that definitely not in the way that I just like a crazy character, like a genuinely crazy character.
Mhm.
That archetype and obviously the Edna archetype of just being insanely straight-faced and with zero tact. Like they are just the two character archetypes I love: sarcastic, no tact, straight face, and also batshit crazy.
Yeah.
Okay, fair enough.
So I like batshit crazy women. I didn't like Zagi. I thought Zagi was a bit annoying in Vesperia, but I think Agria is really good. I don't like. Oh, I didn't hit my mic. I didn't like how they, offed both Agria and Pressa so easily. They just like kind of died, and it was just
Yeah, but that's again,
Yeah.
that's another victim of
Is it?
the plans. I
Okay.
think in the
Okay.
beginning, like development wise, because a lot of things do have to be cut, and you think like to balance, they had like obviously the whole main cast, which was already big, and then they had like a sort of separate cast in the Chimeriad. They
Truth.
had to cut
yeah.
that down. And you can't take Jin. Yeah, Jin. You can't take him away because of how important he is to the actual main cast.
Mhm.
Or Elise.
Jiao.
Jiao,
Okay.
that's
It
it.
took me a
Not
second to
Jiao, that's
realize who
Jin.
you're talking about. Yes.
Yeah, you can't take away Jiao, and Wingull.
It's too important to guys.
Yeah, it's too important. Exactly. So like, it's just the other two had to go.
It's true. Like I fully understand that. I'd have kept them alive personally, or at least just had them do something else. But oof, you know what? Fair enough.
I'd have just had him as
Zilia
bosses in the
had
final dungeon.
Zilia had some issues it had to work through, so these two had to suffer for it. It's a shame, but they made it through more or less the whole game before they had to go. So it was a good run.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it's just a point where when they get to a certain point in development, they think, well, we can't really expand on them from here, so what do we do with them?
It's true. They were more or less at the end with Pressa. Agria would need an entire different game to go over what's going on in there. So
Oh yeah, 100%. That's the problem. Like, I love Agria, but she's incredibly underdeveloped. I would love to know more about that
they
crazy.
drop that juiciness that she's a royal from a destroyed family, and then they just don't do anything with it.
Nope.
Yeah, it's a
I
shame.
genuinely couldn't believe that.
If I ever get to talk to producer Tommy Zauer, I'll say, look, can you just put an Agria prequel on the cards?
Maybe
All
maybe
right.
one day.
To get back on track. The other question I had was obviously more serious. We've brought it up a couple of times that there are probably going to be differences between the demo and the actual game. Speaking specifically of the demo section, just to keep it safe and no one gets in trouble, what are the differences? I personally felt even on the hardest difficulty that we as players were super overtuned. So like I feel like, and I also kind of wonder, and please don't answer this because I'm 100% sure you'd get in trouble. We had too many characters for this section. Uh,
So I like so in terms of the demo versus the first chapter preview. So the preview was most of the first chapter from the actual full game. And the skill panel, like I can't tell you exactly what was activated in the skill panel in the demo because I really don't know, but I can guarantee that it was definitely a lot of the skill panel was
It felt
unlocked.
like
Okay.
it. It
Um,
felt like it.
But I think that's because um, in the first chapter, you don't boost attacks are not as readily available as they are in the demo.
That
And
makes sense.
there are lots of things in the skill panel that increases their recharge rate. So yeah, I would have to imagine that all of those skills were maxed, like for the recharge rate for boost attacks. I have to imagine that pretty much they had a max skill panel for that demo. Um, and in terms of the characters from that section, though, it should be where you like maybe not the first time you go there, but it should be where you get the full party because that's
Oh, so
like
fast.
yeah. So Vicent, Vicent and Elder Menancia is like where we've been told that's where Kisara and Dohalim are.
Yes.
So yeah, it should be sometime around that. But the Elder Menacia is it's further into the game um, than where the demo is. The demo is like a vertical slice. Like they've just taken the Elder Menacia
Sure.
area and put a whole bunch of stuff that is not going to happen in the full game. Like you're not going to you're not going to be getting like all of those tutorials and little like text segments where they're basically doing the tutorials that are supposed to happen in the first chapter. And of course, like the first chapter all happens in Calaglia. And we know from trailers and the way Tales marketing works in that they reveal characters in the order that they appear in the game. We know that Rinwell's next, and all her stuff takes place in Cislodia, or at least like the origin of her story. So we can make educated guesses that we obviously start in Calaglia and then go to Cislodia, and I believe that's where, that's right, because when you go to Cislodia, Law is part of the police force there.
Yeah.
So
it caught me off guard when we first saw that.
I imagine afterwards whether we go to Elder Menancia next, or we go to one of the other realms. But at Elder Menancia, it seems to be there are two characters introduced in each of the areas in the early chapters.
Sweet.
Okay, fair enough.
Yeah, I figured that they like, because a lot of demos are usually they just throw in a lot of stuff that you're not going to see at this point in time.
And it's also because I think they had to really max out the stuff because giving it to you in like a midway state, that's not the start of the game, but further in when you have a whole party, and not like giving you sort of a half filled skill panel or whatever, it would be very hard to understand the combat at that point because you haven't actually built up to it. So like you'd be if your boost attacks weren't available, it would be very tricky to find a satisfying experience. So I think they would have just said, let's just max this skill panel out and and they can go for it.
Yeah, now a DualShockers article came out the other day where they said that they confirmed that there is mid-air dodging and everything. Can you say that exists?
In the skill panel, there are things you can unlock in the skill panel, and mid-air dodge is one of the first things that I saw in Alphen's skill panel. In the first chapter, they are unlocked by title, so I don't think it was in the very first title that he had. But I think it was maybe the second or third, and mid-air dodge was there. So I don't know if that's going to be all characters or whether it's just Alphen. or at least I can't say whether it's going to be all characters or just Alphen. But mid-air dodge is there,
Oh,
or
sweet.
can be unlocked.
Because in the demo, I was so afraid to hit an art that makes me go airborne, because I was like, I'm not gonna be able to dodge this mantis strike if I do that. So I
Yeah,
felt very grounded in the demo because especially against bosses, because if you did go in the air, you were very vulnerable unless you were playing like Rinwell, which you could just stand back and spam arts over and over and over again.
You lack boldness, friend.
Hey man.
There's nothing tying me to the ground anymore. I live up here until I run out of BP. But that's understandable. In other Tales games, it's pretty commonplace to get aerial actions, so that wasn't something I hadn't considered until just now
Yeah, I was
because I just
I
took it
think
for
I think
granted.
most things that you think might be missing are probably unlocked in the skill panel.
Mhm.
Um, and I think the only thing that I don't know um, is like guard canceling, because obviously only Kasara can guard. But
Yeah.
I'm pretty sure you can just dodge. You can cancel a spell cast by just dodging. So instead of a guard cancel, it's a dodge cancel.
Works for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
I
that's
played a whole lot of Kisara anyway. I enjoyed the hell out of perfect guarding, so
Oh, Kasara is so much fun. I really
yeah.
enjoyed Kasara a lot. Like the ones I preferred playing in the demo were Alf and Kasara and even Shion, which is weird because I don't usually like ranged characters, but she's
I
got
agree.
cool stuff with the bombs.
Yeah, no, we have a very similar take. With the exception of Alphen, who I preferred Rinwell. I preferred the ladies. Essentially, is what it is.
Yeah,
And
well, so
I typically
when I
don't
play the
enjoy mages and ranged characters because they feel a little jank by comparison, and it just was not the case here.
yeah, I think obviously when I originally played the demo back during the preview phase, like months earlier, um, I had a lot of time with it, more than I should have had, but I still didn't have unlimited time. So Rinwell, Rinwell, and I think Dohalim have probably the highest skill flaws. Like it's a different kind of play style than most people would be
Hmm.
used to,
Yeah.
and I just didn't have the time to really experiment with with Rinwell a lot. But yeah, I'm since I've had the public demo, Rinwell is fun to play. I still don't know whether it's my type of play style, but fun to play.
I know
Yeah, for
she's like
sure.
seems fairly, and like Omega came out with the video where he just played as her and fought the secret boss on hard mode.
I believe you mean
And
embarrassed the secret
oh
boss.
yeah, embarrassed the secret boss on hard mode. Uh, yeah, she seems, if you're good with her, she's broke.
Yeah, I think it's gonna be pretty much every character. I think like that's because that's the thing in Arise is they haven't really pigeonholed. The closest they've got to like really making a character a one note thing is Law, because he's just sort of like quick, fast man. But everyone else, like, because even Rinwell has a bunch of like non-spell
Yeah.
arts, and she has like mid-air attacks, and the same with Shion, and the same with Dohalim. Like, I think everybody can be an absolute powerhouse because
Yeah.
they've all got everything essentially. In a way, like they obviously are specialized. Like Kisara's the only one that can guard, and she doesn't have, as far as I know, doesn't have any actual spell arts. Neither does Alf, and neither does Law. Um, but yeah, they're all more well-rounded rather than specialized.
Yeah, I really like it when a Tales game will have character, like, more than just the main character is uh extremely fun to play as, and that's what I got into in this run of Berseria, where I barely even touched Velvet. I played as Eleanor the entire time, pretty much, because Eleanor is Honestly, I think Eleanor is the best played character in that game. Like while Velvet's like really good, I think all of Eleanor's like strike arts and everything are they tie in together like a lot better. Aizen is weird to play as at first, but he gets pretty easy. I think the hardest character to play as is Magilu in Berseria.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But
I was
outside of
never able to make her work. I wanted so desperately to do so.
her soul break is so weird. So like even actually like just trying to do her mystic art is just kind of like awkward. But no, what I played of the demo, I mean outside of like LOL being kind of just like meh, all the other characters are just like, I mean like LOL is not like LOL's like I would be like obviously I would like LOL better if it wasn't Bryce Papenbrook, but even if it wasn't Bryce Papenbrook, I still would probably play LOL last because he just seems like the character that he seems like, you know, the one-dimensional I'm just going to punch character. While I mean you have Dohalim who has a style that's similar to Leia and Zilia where, you know, when you dodge his pole extends and so he's got even more of reach and he's actually got ridiculously good at air combat. And he has spells. Rinwell is just broken with her like long range spells and like the easy way you can get to like your second level spells by just like casting 2 spells in a row. Shion drops enemies from the sky very easily, and her range is pretty strong. Her grenades are like amazing. Alphen is your
Like
I have a
Shion will be basically your main healer most of the time. But you can sort of pick and choose in that way because like Dohalim can also do a fair bit of healing.
Yeah.
See, Lore is basically just the monk archetype. Like he's the fist weapon monk archetype because he has a self heal, he has a you know like a self stat buff thing.
Oh, the steel equivalent.
And he attacks fast with 2 fist weapons. Like that's pretty much his thing.
Yeah.
Hello, my name is Law. I'm here to introduce myself and punch you in the face.
So,
and introductions are over.
I'll give Bandai Namco this, all right? When I first saw Law and like that he was like a monk or whatever, I said, "Of course he is. It's a Bandai Namco game and his name is Law. He's literally a Tekken character."
Oh,
this is literally a Tekken character in in Tales. And that's even like further pushed when they give Kisara a what is it, a Nino Williams outfit. So just
this is true.
Tekken.
Yeah.
It's interesting. My initial reaction just to the whole cast were really positive, except for Rinwell and Law, because I thought they looked the most boring and most generic. And I have since backed off on Rinwell because I've played a bunch of her, and boy, she's just so much fun. But even hearing what you're saying, Law is more or less exactly what I expected him to be. It's not a bad thing, as you said. You need one in every game. It's even if it's not expected, like he serves a purpose. Enjoying the video? Remember to like and sub. Helps out the channel a bunch, and we're grateful for everyone we get. So
yeah, and I think for this game in particular, like they do have like Dohalim is like, you know, it's pretty out there for Tales. I say like it is similar to Leia in a way. But he's sort of, you know, like he's like half caster, half group melee attacker. Like it's a bit of an experiment. Rinwell is like the caster archetype, but she got some crazy mechanics going on. So like I do think you need to have like an alternative for people who don't want to play Alphen but want to play something like Alphen.
Yeah.
And I think that just has to be Law and that kind of playstyle, that quick, zippy, you know, lots of melee arts, up close kind of character class. And I mean, I guess they could have gone more experimental with it, but there are limited things you can do with a class that's like that. There are sort of limited things you can do if you want to make an up close, quick fighter. It's kind
Yeah.
of thief, monk. That's it.
Yeah, certainly.
Um. So one of the big I guess weird points when it comes to going from your earlier Tales games into this game is outside of Kisara, there's no guarding. It's all near automata flash dodge.
I play character action games. I'm prepared.
How like obviously we've played the demo, so we understand like how it actually is, but like from playing like the first chapter into I guess the rest of the game, like how does it feel to play a Tales game where you're not blocking half of your
Well,
gameplay?
like here's the thing, blocking, yeah, has been in pretty much every other Tales game. There might be one or two without it. I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
Mm-hmm.
But I mean, it was never important. Like if you didn't guard, you just took more damage. Like it wasn't like I don't think there's ever been a Tales game where like absolutely guarding every single time you're about to get hit was crucial. Like even in
No,
boss fights.
no.
It's just sort of it was something there where you could you could just reduce the damage. Like and I don't think it was ever like it wasn't something that was super it wasn't super involved. It wasn't super interactive. It was just a guard button. And so I think moving to, hey,
Well,
well, what we want you to do is dodge, and you can still like just you don't have to do perfect dodges. You can just do like if you hit the dodge button without any directional field, it's like the backstep from older Tales games, which
yeah.
you used to do with the guard anyway. Because that's the thing I think back, like in Symphonia, you put the guard up, but you only put the guard up so you can backstep, so you avoid the attack altogether. It wasn't like you just guarded and stood there. You had to guard to do the backstep. And that's
Correct.
what I always think of is in a lot of games, the guard is there as like the worst of the options.
Well, so what later on in Tales games they've been more interactive with the guards because like in Berseria, if you guarded long enough, your next hit would like had a higher chance of stunning or did like more damage, or if you last second like I mean obviously you had the last second dodge, but you had to guard with it. You were able to like knock out a break like a sphere, a soul sphere or whatever out of an enemy. Um, like they've attached more interactive stuff to it because like I said, like in Berseria, if you guarded and you got to the red color of the guard, your next hit, if you were able to get a hit in on it, had either like a pretty much a 100% chance to like stun, or had a very very much higher chance to like stun and do more damage.
Yeah.
And that's how I played the later Tales games because I mean even in like Zestiria had something like that. Obviously Grace's F guarding wasn't the most important thing because the most important thing was to do the half circle dodge to go
Yeah.
around the enemy. So I
Yeah. So
understand that.
there have been ups and downs. Like as like the more importance put on the guard, more importance put on dodging, no importance put on any defensive at all. That was, I mean, that was basically Exilia 2 more or less.
Oh
48
yeah.
arts. And so like, you know, that's it goes up and down. And for people who still want that guiding playstyle, there is Kisara, and
Yes,
uh,
there
a,
is.
a lot of that Berseria stuff is rolled into Kisara because Kisara's battle perk, you can use certain arts from guard, and when you use them from guard, they have additional damage and effects. So
Yeah.
so yeah, it's sort of rolling in those extra mechanics from Berseria, and there is at least one character for you. But yeah, I personally I've always been the dodging type. Like I say, like
Yep.
playing
Same.
Symphonia back in the day, it was you put the guard up, but it was only because you had to put the guard up to do the backstep. Like that was
Yeah.
pretty much it.
No, I agree with that.
I absolutely agree with that.
Yeah. Yeah. No.
And I
Because
mean,
I mean,
you know,
Avi, you're
to
coming
an
from
extent,
Azilia, where backstepping, you did a half circle.
Yup.
You not nothing personal, kid, with Jude. So
Yeah, and I mean, the next entry might bring guarding back and make that the focus.
Might do,
Like, pretty
yeah.
much, that's what I mean. It's the Tale series. It gets a lot of from mainstream press. It gets a lot of flack, for not changing. But I mean, it changes a lot. Like anybody who's played more than just a couple of Tales games knows it
yeah,
changes a lot.
yeah, agree. Because again, like I say that Graces is like the best of the battle system, but that battle system is completely different from
Yeah,
pretty much
it was
all the other games.
it was a huge change. Like that's why as writing the script for that video, I talked about way at the start of this.
Yeah,
Yeah, the changes the series have been through are huge, and like that shift to Grace's F was a massive departure from the series in terms of battle, but also just in lots of other areas, no overworlds, and I'm glad that the in Arise the field maps have actually been made interesting and fun.
yeah,
It might actually
yeah.
be the first Tales to have field maps that actually rival the overworlds of previous.
Yeah. I the only problem I had with like the battle maps for in fights is specifically in the Mantis fight. All right, I'm like trying to hit the vulnerable point of it, and sometimes the Mantis will just stand on the out like well it's like claw will be on the outside of the arena, and I'm just like
Friend, let me go ahead and tell you that is not an Arise problem. I was playing Zillia. I tried to fight
oh yeah no.
Folsom.
Well, that's because
Oh
they all have
boy.
battle arenas. It's because they all have battle arenas. It's
Yeah,
even
that
worse in Zestiria because you have a shitty camera.
honestly, the arena itself I don't find to be the issue. It's the fact that the enemy units aren't beholden to the same walls you are. Their
Yeah,
wall seems to be much further away than yours, which is strange to me. I don't know if it's because they don't want them falling out of certain combos up against the wall or whatever it is, but yeah, no. This could all be avoided if you just made the wall that is there for you there for everything. Then you wouldn't have this weird situation of, especially now that you bring it up, yeah, the mantis having the ability to accidentally get its leg out of range for anyone but Rinwell and Shion. Or I guess
yeah.
Dolly, but I didn't use him for his arts.
That it might also be because I don't think you'll actually fight the Mantis there.
Oh, okay,
Like
that's
That
fair.
could also be the case. Yeah,
these
yeah.
Yeah, like the things that you fight in the demo, basically even some of the enemies are different in that area, as far as I know. Like nothing that happens in that demo in terms of story, in terms of the bosses you fight or anything, is actually in the full game. So that might just be a point of the Mantis was not meant to be in this battle arena.
Oh,
Sure.
this is very fair.
But it could also be a problem in the main game, as Dollet has pointed out. It's been in other games as well. Getting slightly out of the battle arena, it could just be collision wise. Like maybe the enemies have much more. Their models are much more elaborate than their actual hitboxes are,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is most likely the cause. But I see. I haven't been able to figure out whether, because you can target the weak spots, right?
Yeah.
You can hold the target button down. You
Thankfully.
can choose that, and I don't know whether you still do damage to it even if you hit another part of the body, but you have that targeted, or whether you specifically have to hit that part of the body. Um, I don't know either way yet.
Oh,
True.
that's a good
I never
question.
tested that out. I never tested that out actually.
Yeah, the only
Kind
person
of
who
hard to tell because you don't really get like a health bar for the weak point. It just sort
just
of
so.
breaks.
I thought you did actually.
No, it just breaks.
Yeah, it just breaks.
You know
There's
you've
like
gotten it
a
when it falls over.
you get
Okay.
the same like armor bar, like the core break
Oh, okay.
bar, like for both, but
Okay.
it's not for the weak part specifically. But yeah, that's
Oh.
kind of like Yeah, I don't know whether that's the case or not. It would be hard to test really, but it could just be a fact of it doesn't really matter that you aren't. It doesn't look like you're hitting it because you are actually hitting it. It could be that. I don't know.
Oh, that's fair. Well, Dollet, do you have any other questions?
Yeah, just in terms, this is pretty much a gimme, but we've heard the term inheritance and evolution of the Tale series bandied about in just about every single interview. It's something that they like to say, probably very reasonably so. They wanted to keep the charm and history of the Tale series that they've built up in this game. I have to ask, despite pretty much knowing the answer, do you feel like they managed it?
Like it's basically like every Tales. Oh, excuse me. Every Tales game has a characteristic title genre, they call them. Um,
Yeah.
and basically, yeah, the one for Arise is essentially inheritance and evolution. And I think from what we've already been speaking about, it's pretty easy to tell that they
Yeah.
managed it. Like the combat isn't so much different as it is just a collection of a bunch of different Tales games,
Yes.
uh, and yeah, and it's all there. As far as I can tell, from the second I played the demo to the second I played the first chapter, I've always thought, wow, this feels like a Tales game. Like I've never once thought this feels Untails like, and I think that's exactly what you want.
Absolutely is. Like I said, pretty sure we all knew the answer to that one coming, but
Yeah.
I had to ask to
Yeah.
be sure. And that's it. That's all I had. You nailed a lot of the questions I was planning on asking ahead of time, so came
Sweet.
prepared.
Do you have any questions for us? Like anything anything we may be looking forward to on the outside?
Oh God, be gentle.
I don't really know. I don't think. What
No.
wait. So what are your favorite tales? Like what is your favorite tales for each of you?
Oh, both of us it's Abyss.
It's piss.
Yeah. Okay. Common answer.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm not. I'm not even ashamed about it now. I like that one Tales game that everyone says they like. Turns out it's pretty all
That's the
right.
thing, because I don't think it didn't used to be this way, and I have a theory that because pretty much everyone used to say Vesperia, and after Definitive Edition come out, I maybe think people have realized that Vesperia wasn't the best the series had to offer.
Vesperi still has a bunch of my favorite moments. Well, my favorite lead, but
Oh yeah, well that's
it's
the
never
thing.
been my favorite story. Abyss has
Yeah,
always been my favorite story. Like as you've said, I think as we've all said, for me, Tales is story first.
mm,
Like I love everything about the gameplay of Arise, but like
yeah. If
I'm
the
going
story is
into
not
it for the
good,
story first.
yeah. I always had this theory that basically if Yuri wasn't in Vesperia, it
Oh boy,
Oh no,
yeah,
it would probably be one of the lowest ones to be fair, because I don't think the story in Vesperia
that's
is
exactly
very.
what I had said. I've
Yeah.
said that if Yuri wasn't in it, it would basically be one of the worst. People would rank it as one of the worst. Like he makes and breaks
yeah.
that game.
Vesperia for me is almost entirely carried on the shoulders of Yuri, with a small helping of Judy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like I've always thought in more recent times because Tales of Abyss is the more common answer seemingly just in the last few years. Everybody always rated it highly, but every time you ask like, "Oh, what's your favorite?" everyone would always bring up Vesperia, and I just think that people have maybe started to see the light.
Yeah, that's understandable. Even if they
And not
did,
and this is not like yeah, as I'm not a bad take on Vesperia, but yeah, I do think a lot of its stuff is quite weak, but it's definitely elevated to a very good entry with Yuri.
yeah, just the writing on one character alone, and
You
well,
know what?
I guess not just on one character, but his interpersonal relationships as well.
I will
Yeah.
say this though. I think Abyss also falls into the probably
Don't
kind of
say
the
it.
same purview
Don't say it.
as Vesperia. Because I don't think Vesperia would be. I don't think Abyss would be as good if Luke didn't have such a drastic character art.
Here's why you're wrong.
Here's why I'm wrong. Is it because Jade exists?
No, actually, because Jade, especially on more recent playthroughs, it's been really hard on my heart to listen to Jade, especially when he's talking about Luke, because he's really rough on him. No, the entire baddie squad, all of them, every single one of them is so rock solid, and
I
you
don't
do
know.
not have that with Vesperia.
I mean, okay, this is true. You don't have that with Vesperia, but I think if you remove the character arc out of Luke, it does drop a Vesperia. It just does drop Abyss a couple of points.
Oh, sure. If Luke doesn't go through that fucking like truly one of the best arcs I've ever seen, yes, the whole game becomes weaker. But the fact of the matter is that game is sort of based around that. Like it's his interactions with Tyr, it's his interactions with Vaughn, it's his interactions with Ash. It's a lot of interactions with Ash.
Yeah.
So it's not just like this matter of taking that away, because he still has all of these other things to play off of. Whereas if you take away Yuri's cool edginess, what do you get? You get a nice guy bringing up Carol, and that's it.
I
Yeah,
mean,
like
yeah, true.
You get
if it
another
was
Flynn, and he's
if it
already in
was
the
like
game.
Lloyd.
Oh,
Imagine
don't
like a
say
Lloyd
that.
in Vesperia's
Don't, please, no,
role.
don't.
That's what it is like. So, or if you don't want to imagine Lloyd, imagine two Flynns.
Oh, please, no.
That's what you
I
would
love
get
I
if
love
you
Sam
take
Riegel, but I don't
if
like
you
Flynn.
remove. Oh goodness, his Jude is so much better than his Flynn. If you remove, even if you were to remove Luke from the game, which boy oh boy I would not recommend. All the baddies are super strong, and the concept behind them is crazy. It's insanity.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm
But yeah,
not a
if you do
distant
remove
fan.
Luke, it
Yeah.
doesn't become my favorite game anymore.
I will say this though, Zillia does fall like so close behind Abyss, so close. It's
Yeah,
so
Third
I
for
mean,
me.
it's my favorite. As I've pointed out many times, like I don't think it's a perfect game either. But I think there are just so many characters I love in that game because, as like I love, like there's Agria and there's Gaius and there's Wingull and then there's like most of the main cast because I love Mila and I just love pretty much every character in that game, like and there's a lot of them, and for them to all be relatively strong, like I don't exactly like Jude, but I now know that other people do like Jude.
Sorry.
That's what I mean, like it's one of the biggest casts, I think, when you take into consideration you've got the whole Chimeriad who are kind of antagonists but kind of also not, because you've also got a whole set of other antagonists on top of
Yeah.
that. It's a big cast and everyone feels really strong for the most part.
Yeah, no, I
I
agree.
have to agree.
I think that and this actually this is very weird for me actually. My favorite part my favorite moment in Zillia actually doesn't even happen in Zillia, all right? It happens in the opening for Zillia 2 and then subsequently actually happens in Zillia 2. But you know that moment where Jude and Mila are fighting back to back on the train and they're just like, fucking going ham, and then the song hits at that point? Like, just remembering from past experience of playing Zillia and then going into Zillia 2 like that part, literally every single moment gives me like goosebumps because I just love how well written the cast is in Zillia.
Yeah. I mean, all my favorite parts are Gaius parts, but I understand exactly what you're talking about.
God, we are sitting in very different sides of this Zillia spectrum.
Okay, so you'll have to play Zillia 2 after. Gaius gets
We'll see.
Gaius gets a lot more stuff in Zillia 2 because you get to play as them.
Yeah, I mean, and Gaius was supposed to be a playable character in Exilia, so that's
it
one of the
feels
main
like it.
concepts it's one of the main concepts that passed over into Exilia 2 because it was cut from Exilia. But yeah, I mean, I loved Gaius in Exilia before having played Exilia 2, based on many superficial things like design. But my actual love for him it definitely came through in Exilia 2 because yeah, him and Muse are just hilarious in that game.
Yeah,
I'll definitely
Muse's
get
not exactly likable in the first game, but she gets better.
You want
But
to
the
talk about someone
combo,
who
yeah, the
suffered from
combo in
writing.
Exilia 2 are hilarious.
Yeah.
No, I'll probably get around to that at some point. I actually do struggle for time, and obviously Arise is going to be the next thing that's on the chopping block. But I mean, it's a lot of high praise, and I went into Xillia with middling expectations, and they were all pretty well blown out of the water.
It's a really good game. Like I
It
said,
is genuinely.
if
It's a
Abyss didn't
shame that
exist, it would be my favorite.
It's a shame that it is stuck on PS3 for the moment. Like, I do hope that even if they just do the basic of basic Tales of Symphonia Chronicles like,
Yeah,
even if they
Yeah.
basically put some higher res textures in and make it 1080p, I don't
and just
care.
slap it on
It needs
Steam
to be on
somewhere.
something more modern. Yeah.
That's
Um,
that's what
'Cause I
that's what I don't understand. Some of the most enjoyable Tales games are stuck on the PS3.
Well, we all understand the reason behind that, yes?
Oh yeah, it's because of the architecture for PS3.
Yeah,
It
because the
sucks.
PS3 had crap architecture and it's so difficult to do anything with it.
Yeah, they will eventually. I think they will eventually get around to it, but at the moment, it just does seem like their focus is obviously Tales of Arise first and foremost, and I think in terms of remasters, remakes, that kind of thing, it will be bringing more legacy titles over, like that are a little bit older than the PS3
So
genre.
do
Yeah,
you
Like,
think
absolutely.
Destiny rumor is correct? Was
yeah,
true.
I'm in the camp of believing that that it is probably going to happen. Tales of Destiny is something that crops up all the time in Tales of stuff in Japan, but like
Stan, Ruti,
it,
and Leon are everywhere.
yeah, they're pretty much in everything. Tales of Destiny is not only like one of the most loved entries by players, but it's up. It has to be up there with the dev team. Like, clearly, the devs, a lot of developers at Bandai Namco are passionate about Tales of Destiny,
Mhm.
and it's never really been given a fair shot over here. Only the first one on PlayStation 1 ever released over here, and it was only North America that got it.
Yeah.
So, like,
Yeah,
it's never been given a fair shake. There is the PS2, like the director's cut, which is purportedly to be what Destiny HD is supposed to be based on, has so much more content than anybody in the West ever would have experienced, unless they played fan translations and what have you. But yeah, it'd probably be stuff like that. But after Destiny, because I think Vesperia and Destiny are the two that make the most sense, because they were both games that did get a release in the West, but not the best release of
Yeah.
them. So, like, they have a lot of the work done, but they've got a significant amount of work to add on, whereas most of the others are all like, we're starting from scratch here.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, I can totally see Destiny coming, but I would love to see just a basic, like, hey, Exilia 1, Exilia 2 pack, HD pack. Here you go.
Oh
yes,
yeah.
I'd like to see a lot of the stuff put on. I don't even really want to see on modern consoles. I just want it on Steam because once it's on the computer, it's there forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
If
I mean, it is the point of, yeah, it's like priorities, because the Tails team, which is, it's not really accurate. It's like Tails teams, because it's like
teams plural, yeah,
there's like 8 of them, more or less. Like, there's not 2 separate teams like there used to be back in the day, but the actual people who develop Tails are a huge amount of people that can form many teams. But
Yeah.
it's still a huge amount of work. Like, Tomizawa said, that Vesperia Definitive Edition was a 3-year project. And that includes simultaneous localization and everything at the same time, but it's still 3 years. And you can see with, like, Okay, so they brought out Tales of Symphonia Chronicles on PS3 that included Dawn of the New World and Symphonia. But when they brought Symphonia to PC, they didn't bring Dawn of the New World over. And as possibly the most recent Sonic Colors experience has made people realize that the Wii's architecture does not
Translate
it's
to
not an easy
anything.
well, yeah, it's not an easy thing to port a Wii game.
No, it's not.
So like and that's the problem. I think it's both Wii and PS3 in particular have the problem with like actually getting these games proper ports is kind of difficult, like more difficult than people realize.
It really sucks for Graces because Graces, both versions of
Yeah,
Graces are it's on the Wii and the PS3. So it's like
yep.
there's nothing they can do
Astounding.
there.
You're never gonna see that game ever again.
Oh.
It's double dead. No, but I would like to see them come over, and this might be frustrating for some people, but I hear when the term remake is bandied about, I hear Abyss, obviously, I hear Vesperia, I hear I guess Zillia, but honestly, the games I want remade, if they're gonna do like big things, please redo the old ones. Please do Destiny. Please do Fantasia, Hearts, Eternia. These are
Well,
the
Hearts
ones
already
that.
got a remake.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah, you have to
So
play it on the Hearts are, which I hear is actually pretty good. So,
it's
and
got
that actually came over here.
Gameplay wise, it's probably one of the best. It's strange. It's a handheld title. The characters suck. The story is passable, but holy crap, it's got some really fun gameplay. It's combat. It's everything is really fun.
I was watching a streamer that I watched because he was also going through a Tales marathon, and when he got to Hearts R, he said he wasn't really expecting much of it, but apparently the comedy writing in Hearts R is actually really good. So it's
Yeah, I
actually
think like
ridiculously funny.
yeah, the like that kind of thing, like the actual writing is good, like the story's passable, but I like there's just no character that you actually like. Like I can't think of a single character that I can barely remember them. Like I can remember the robot man and like then you had Sui. Like most of them are just garbage. And it's a shame because yeah, it has many other great things going for it.
I'll
But
play
yeah,
that
like
game at some point.
to your point, Dollet, I agree. Like because I don't think like why does Abyss need a remake?
Yeah.
It's it still holds up. You like they
It
don't
just
need to
needs a
like
port.
fully remake it. Yeah, they
It
just
just
need
needs
to
a
if they
port.
port it to something more modern, it would be fine. Yeah, in terms of like you're gonna put serious time and effort into remaking something, it should be the older ones because
Hmm.
there's a lot of amazing stories to tell back then, and I don't think people these days are going to be anywhere near as receptive to that very strictly 2D linear
Yes,
type
that's. I
Yeah.
gameplay.
think that's going to be the biggest roadblock. I don't think it's having to sit there and read it. I don't think it's the lack of voice. I think it is, in fact, just how old it looks would be the
Hmm.
biggest wall for a lot of folks.
Oh, I agree. We definitely need to get the games we like never got. So like Rebirth. I'm pretty sure we didn't get Innocence, right? Um,
Yeah, no Innocence, no Rebirth. There's a bunch
Vague
more.
Longberg.
we didn't
Let's
we didn't
see.
get
That's pretty-
we didn't get the actual Destiny 2, right? Because there's a bit of a mix up. There's
No,
Tales of
yeah, we did.
Eternia, which we got, but there's Tales of Destiny 2 that we didn't get.
Yeah, there's a proper sequel that we didn't get. So yeah, we like North America only got the original Destiny, and then they came out with the PS2 version of Destiny, then the PS2 director's cut of Destiny, and then they came out with Destiny 2 on PS2, and we didn't get anything after that very first Destiny.
Yeah.
And then
And
yeah, it was
then,
because of like like Mattel had
Yeah,
a
Mattel.
copyright on Eternia. Yeah,
Yeah.
so they just couldn't.
huh?
So
So
they
Didn't
named
know
the
that.
They named Eternia Destiny 2 when it came out over here.
yeah.
So it was like Tales of Destiny 2, quote unquote, but it was actually Tales of Eternia.
I
But
genuinely did not
Mattel
know this.
had
That's interesting.
yeah, Mattel had a copyright on or a trademark on the word Eternia. So they couldn't name it Eternia when they came over here.
Huh. Well, get on this, Tales folk. Get all those old games out, and then make a good Tales of the World, and make sure it comes over to the West as well.
Make a
Yeah, well,
good.
we got the first Tales of the World, but we
We didn't get
missed
the second, yeah.
the other two. Yeah,
Two.
most
I
of
didn't
the
even know about
spin-offs
the third. There you
never
go.
came out. Yeah, there is the three. And there's
I remember putting a lot of time into Versus, actually.
yeah, Tales of Versus, Tales of the Tempest.
Tempest was the
That
DS game? Question mark?
yeah,
Yeah.
and there was Tales of Eternia Online as well. And yeah, there's been a bunch of other ones. Like there's not just Tales as well. There's also I think it's something dungeon like narrow. It starts with an N anyway, but there's like a whole other sort of like dungeon crawling spin-off as well. Um, that's separate from Tales of the World, which is sort of dungeon crawly as well.
Hmm.
There's lots of spin-off. Like we basically didn't get any of the spin-offs.
Well, if there's a if there's something optimistic to be about, it's that as a whole, specifically Japanese devs are starting to see renewed interest in their products by the West, mostly because they've finally started shipping them this way. So hopefully that has been incentive, and we will be seeing more older titles turn up. And obviously, especially now with Arise having a worldwide release, I believe we'll be
Yeah.
seeing all future titles. So there's at least that.
Whoa, whoa, whoa! Japan gets it a day before we do. All right,
Okay,
it's not
yes.
working.
Well, no, they don't. They get it the same time you do. It's just their time zones ahead. Same with me, actually. So
Wait,
I technically get it on the 9th, but you guys get it on the 10th, but that's just because of time zone.
but you guys are supposed to be ahead of us. So technically, if we get it on the
That's what
10th, you
he's
would get it on the
saying.
11th. Oh,
No,
wait,
we
yeah. Oh.
like so like they normalize it, so they tell us it's coming out on the 9th, but that's because we're like 18 hours ahead of you.
Oh,
So like
okay.
I think it's maybe a couple of hours difference in reality. But
Oh, my
but yeah,
speed run,
it's
it's invalid.
but more or less it's simultaneous worldwide.
Yeah.
And I don't think yet, because moving to that kind of development, those processes, like it involves a lot of change in the way that you do things. And as you can see with Tales of Arise and Shin Megami Tensei 5, which have both taken the better part of 5 years development, which is not exactly characteristic for either of those two series. I mean,
Yeah.
Persona takes forever, but Shin Megami Tensei doesn't usually take 5 years.
It's true.
It's a initial hit you have to take as a development team to move to these processes where you're now including a whole international team and doing the localization. A lot of processes need to change, and I don't think you would go through that unless you were then committed to keep those processes going forward.
Mhm.
So I think it shows the importance that Bandai Namco has placed in Tales moving forward for the international audience, and I think that's a good thing.
I think you'd find someone hard pressed to disagree with you.
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
the
well,
internet is a
people that don't like
wild
Tales
place.
because they're weirdos.
Well, I mean, like, I remember back, I think before Zillia came out over here, there was like a big stink, like saying that we weren't going to get many Tales games over here because I guess the developers over at Bandai Namco were thinking, oh man, Tales doesn't really sell well over here, so why are we going to localize it? And I was like, well, we can't get it anyway if you don't localize it, so it's not going to sell well over here in general.
It's a surefire way to prove their point. Yeah, it's just to come out and do the least amount of work. It's like, well, guess you just didn't want it to sell.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean that Hideo Baba, the old Tales producer, gets a lot of flack, and I think it's undeserved because he's just a producer. People seem to put a lot of blame on him for creative decisions that really he didn't make. But he was basically the voice for getting games localized in the West. And you can see, like, we got Tales of Hearts R here basically because he fought tooth and nail to get it over here. And yeah, so it's people should be more thankful, I think, for Hideo Baba's tenure as a Tales producer. Because I don't know if somebody else had been in his position whether we would be where we are right now with Tales, like getting Tales of Arise as a simultaneous worldwide release.
And that's fair, actually. I never thought about that. I mean, I'm probably one of the big proponents of saying that, when Hideo Baba left, we immediately got Berseria, and that was like an uptick. So you removed one factor from it, and you're like, okay, well maybe this was the issue, but I mean, obviously we don't know, we don't fully know.
Yeah, and also at the same time, like Hideo Baba was still full Tales producer while Zestiria was going on, and he would have been Tales producer while pre-production for Berseria was happening. So like, it's not as if Berseria was completely divorced from his influence, but in general, the Tales producer takes a role more important than the producer of other games, because producer in other games is generally has zero creative decisions. Like, they are the people who are supposed to be uh task delegating and making sure that the project is on time and in budget and that kind of thing. Like, they're more procedural.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas Tales Producer takes on a large thing because Tales Producer also becomes the face of the series. So they also take on almost the entirety of the PR role. And they because there are many different projects going on at the same time, they can influence creative decisions. Like, it was Hideo Baba's idea to then make Exilia 2 because this story was going to take longer.
Yeah.
Yeah, so like, they do have some influence, but in general, like, if the issue was ever creative wise, with Zestiria, I don't know why he gets blamed for like Alicia and Rose, like, because it's not him who decided this stuff. Like, they had
No,
directors
we
and
need a person
writers
to
and
direct
everything.
our anger at.
We honestly, I need a person to direct my anger at, because I loved Alicia, and when we got Rose in there, I was like, why?
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. It's like, that's the problem. Like, it's like, because he obviously became the Tales producer, becomes the face of the
yeah.
series, so that's who gets
Yeah.
the blame of it. But yeah, when you realize that, oh, maybe he was, maybe like, because you think about his time there was from basically Vesperia, because at the time the Tales producer role as it exists today didn't exist. So for Vesperia, he was the brand manager, um,
Yeah.
which would eventually become like Tales producer afterwards. So from back then all the way up to just before Berseria came out, that was his tenure. And you think about how many games and how many great games we got during that time. I think that's a legacy to be proud of.
Yeah, this is true. Most of the games that came out in that time frame were really good. I know a lot of people kind of like joke on a couple of the games from, I guess, Exilia and on, just due to, I know a few people that like to joke on, like, the Exilia engine, and how they tried to do like a
Yeah.
kind of a pseudo open world type thing, and it kind of, they weren't like really into that. Um, but no,
Yeah, I
most of
always
the
think, like,
games. Go
back
ahead.
when that came out, when you think about when Exilia came out, that was an earlier PS3 title, and by those standards, it wasn't a bad-looking game or a bad-looking engine. It was
No.
actually, I think if you go back and read old reviews, most people praise its graphics, but the problem is
Yeah.
that they then just had to stick with that engine all the way to Berseria.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
they made some good, like, developments with that engine.
Oh
But
yeah, for sure. But it was still, yeah, underneath it was still the exact same engine, so you could still see a lot of things. It's one of the biggest changes in Arise, I think, is visually, and
Yes.
not just graphics, not just like technical graphics, but also art style, because it's a crazy unique art style. I don't know how much of it you
I love
can
how
really get a
painted
sense
it
for in the
looks.
demo. Yeah, everything looks painted. When you start to see some of like the close-ups on the characters when they're talking in
yeah.
cutscenes and stuff like that, you realize that like their eyebrows, their all their features look as if it's a painting,
It's
and
beautiful.
it's crazy unique. And I'm really excited to see where they go with it from here, like in the next couple of entries, how they're going to evolve it. It
Yeah,
just looks really good.
I'm actually really excited for anything after Arise, because like I mean, obviously we're excited for Arise, and we all
Oh
want to play it
man,
right now. But
I wonder
everything
if this is
after
the game
this,
that breaks it out, just because it looks nicer.
you also have to think, all right, this game is cross-gen, all right. The next game will not be cross-gen. It will be specific to ninth gen technology.
Yep.
So the increase from Arise to whatever the next mainline Tales game is actually probably going to be an even bigger jump than it is from Berseria to Arise,
It won't
because they're
necessarily have to
specific.
be.
It won't have to be, but they're specifically gearing for this
This is
certain
true.
architecture, like with it just Gen 9 in general. So they have a lot of stuff that they can, because like I mean there are things probably in Arise that they had to do because it has to come out on PS4 or it has to come out on an earlier Xbox. But that's not going to be there for the next one because they can utilize. I mean, just look at Ratchet and Clank. All right, that game would not be able to play on a PS4. I guarantee it.
Yeah, definitely not graphics wise. If they put loading screens where the portals are, yeah, it could be, but that's a whole nother matter.
Yeah. And what you're saying about like the producer and stuff, like so Dollet and I and of course Leek, we're big 14 fans. All right, we're heavily into Final Fantasy 14. It's like that's where we all come from. And while Yoshi P, the director and producer, or whatever, he's obviously the main face of 14. He also just produces 16, but he is still considered, and he's still considered the face of that game. So we definitely understand that.
100%.
But I think with a lot of like Japanese companies, probably the producer of the game and normally ends up being kind of the face. In most Japanese companies, it's a little different with like I guess anything that Nomura is working on, because he's normally the director, but he's also normally the face of whatever game he's working on.
Yeah,
But I think
I think it's the producer role is definitely like generally expanded in Japanese development because not just they become the face of it, but often they will combine the role of producer and director as well.
Yes.
That's quite common.
yeah,
Whereas over here, that's not. And that can lead to problems, but it can also lead to good things. When you've got a really good producer in Yoshi P who knows absolutely how to manage a project,
yeah,
it can be very beneficial to be both the director and the producer. But yeah, you sort of start to see a good producer when you see one, when you start to see like what they actually look like.
yeah.
And yeah,
I th-
I think just making them the face is also because they don't necessarily have to be involved with the day-to-day aspects of development.
yeah.
Um, when you're making an MMO for scratch in 2 years, you do have to be. But like
Yeah.
in normal circumstances, there are going to be times where you can fill your PR role, where a director might not be able to, because any creative decision needs to be made. It comes back to them in the end.
Hmm. I
Whereas,
think it's
like if the producer sets up a bunch of tasks to be done and they're being done, well, now we got some free time.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Fair.
And Yoshi P has definitely aged twice as many years as the years have actually
Oh
went by
God, he
due
has
to
the poor
his dual
man.
positions. Now tertiary positions, because since he's doing 3 roles at the moment. Um,
Two of
yeah, it's
those
pretty.
rolls twice.
2 of those roles twice, yes. The god is that he is. This podcast has been going on for quite a while, and I don't know your time limit, Jay, but I know Dollet's time limit is very very.
I do have jury duty in the morning.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, well, that's fine. Like it has been going on for a while.
um.
Well, it was an
So
absolute pleasure, though.
yeah. Thanks for coming on and everything. the thing that we do in our last bit is we talk about what we're all going to be doing this next week. Some very obvious.
Well, let's just end it now.
I think at least half of us are going to be playing Arise this Friday.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Oh, I think I haven't done New Game Plus yet. Even though I've already got like the Platinum doesn't require New Game Plus, but I still will probably play New Game Plus just to see if
That's
there's
actually
anything.
weird. That's actually weird. Like,
Fantastic.
so I know a lot of Tales games don't require New Game Plus.
Yeah, they
but
don't require it, but in Zestiria, it's like it's possible to get the Platinum on the first run, but it's much easier to do it with the second run because the Platinum
yeah,
requires you beat the bosses on a certain difficulty, and obviously
yeah,
it's much easier if you're already way over leveled.
yeah. This is very true. Yeah, I'm outside of Arise. I'll be playing Zillia off and on. Need for Speed Underground because I just need to get my nostalgia fix. And then yeah, Arise on Thursday/Friday, depending on when I get my collector's edition in. They haven't shipped yet for me, at least. So
Yeah,
I
I got an email. I got an email from Ben at Amco. It was Europe for me. They have said that like they're committed. It's a big thing about delivery and stuff, and they said they're committed to having everyone playing day one. So
okay,
they may have actually already shipped, but they just haven't updated shipping
okay, that's
details
fair.
yet because there have been reports of people receiving theirs already.
Yeah,
So yeah, I think with the logistics and everything the way they are, like international shipping and even domestic shipping, but from they had to get all the collector's editions over into countries in the first place. I think
Oh,
it's the
that's
way
been
it
a
is.
mess.
Yeah, I think the logistics are just going to take a while to catch up. But I mean, they've said that basically if you don't receive it by release day, they will message you.
okay.
Like they say,
That
don't worry about messaging us. If we haven't seen it as delivered on launch day, we will message you and tell you what's going on. So fingers
that's good.
crossed.
That's good. I mean, I'm like slightly used to that because I got I got the Cold Steel 3 collector's edition from Nisa, and
Yeah.
and they didn't send me listen to this. They didn't send me the tracking for this thing until 2 weeks after I had already gotten the package.
Yeah. Yeah,
I'm
it can
just
be a
like,
huge because I think they're having to use companies and stuff that they weren't using before, and so like
mhm,
all of their processes are messed up because like before it would have been they had like infrastructures in place where it was just like, oh yeah, all the orders get automatically fed into here and all their tracking numbers get assigned and they get emailed out. Like it would all be in automatic. Whereas now if they're having to use like logistics companies that they weren't using before, it's either all manual, they haven't got systems in place, what have you. It's just a big mess at the moment.
yeah. I mean, I'm used to like maybe getting my collector's edition on like at least day one. My thing is that if I don't get it the day before, then I'm just gonna go ahead and buy the digital version so I can play at midnight. Because that's just how I am. I want to play it as early as possible, so I will just shell out the extra $60 to $70 to buy the digital version, which I actually kind of need to anyway, because the collector's edition actually does not come with some of the costumes. So you only get like, I think a costume for
Right,
Alphen and
you don't get the pre-order ones? Is that the
I.
ones you miss out on?
Well, so the pre-order ones are the ones you are like the Alphen and Shion one with the
Right,
like
no, because
the wings and
You got the US
yeah.
pre-order. Yeah.
EU gets all of the costumes, but the US but NA doesn't
I
with their
found out
collector's edition.
the reason is because because obviously EU and Bandai Namco US are different publishers,
Mm-hmm.
and Bandai Namco US thought the price was too high on the collector's edition, so they dropped the DLC so they could drop the price. So it's just over $50 USD cheaper for you guys than it is for people in Europe, but it's because they dropped all the DLC.
I
But
don't like it. I would have
that should
paid it.
mean it should mean like I haven't been able to see this yet because you don't really find out until launch day. But I have a sneaking suspicion, like you'll be able to put your PS4 or PS5 disc in, and then there'll be like an Ultimate Edition upgrade pack, and it'll be, you know, like $44.95 or something, and
Oh, okay.
that gives you all of the DLC, and so I think you'll basically have parity with the Europe version if that happens. But they have had a, like, you know, a digital deluxe upgrade for one of the other Tales games, so it wouldn't surprise me to see it done here either.
All right. I will have to make my decision at some point in time because, like I said, I'm most likely going to be downloading the digital version if I don't get it. On Thursday.
Whereas I'm getting it on PS5 as well, so
Yeah. So who knows?
You know, I've got a collector's edition and a Hoodle edition coming in, so
There's
and
a
I've already
Hoodle
got
edition.
I love that word so much. It's so silly.
yeah, there's a Hoodle edition for EU. It's got like a stuffed Hoodle in it, that you can put like it comes with like 8 different accessories, so you can customize your Hoodle.
Oh my goodness.
You know what it is. You know what it is. NA is just paying for all the times we got all the cool stuff and EU didn't.
It's true.
Pretty
Right.
much.
So I will let you guys have this. I did, however, pre-order the next Famitsu magazine because there is a code in that Famitsu magazine that allows you to have a weapon skin for Rinwell, where she's using a Famitsu magazine as a weapon.
Yeah, it's hilarious. I saw the screenshots last night. It's a great idea.
Yeah, I was like, this is really cool, and I was like, this is too dumb not to have. And even if the code, I think the code's supposed to work because a lot of Japanese codes will work on like outside of Japanese games. But even if it doesn't, I have a Famitsu magazine that's primarily Tales of Arise related, and that's not the worst $25 I've spent. So
Well, even if it doesn't, you should be able to, depending on what your platform is. Like if it's PlayStation, you should be able to create a Japanese PlayStation account and redeem the code.
yeah,
Even though you didn't redeem the game on the Japanese account, but then you can
yeah.
actually just use it between accounts if you set them up right. So
Yeah,
you should be able to use it regardless.
I have a Japanese account and a New Zealand account. So I got the New Zealand account a couple weeks ago because that was like the first area you were able to like play the demo. So I was able to play the demo like the day before the actual demo hit NA.
That's, I mean, pretty much like I think New Zealand is very close to where I am. Like I'm
Yeah.
on the east coast of Australia, and New Zealand's basically 4 hours away, and that's pretty much, I think, like they get it slightly earlier because they're slightly earlier in the time zone.
Yeah. But that's what we'll all be doing this week.
Correct.
Thank you again, Jay, for coming on. This has been a very good episode, and our longest for quite a while actually.
So where can everyone find you at?
Yeah.
Well, now because I've only just recently changed actual like actual tags. So now you can find me at JRPG Gaming pretty much everywhere. So that's like youtube.com/JRPG Gaming. And that's just like literally JRPG, not JAY.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's where you can find me. I'm sure if you just search JRPG on YouTube, it'll come up. Yeah, watch my videos if you like. I'll be doing lots of Tales of Arise stuff. Tons
Yeah.
of Tales of Arise stuff.
He's been doing, and before that, you had a bunch of Monster Hunter stories too, stuff come out, and
So yeah, I gotta do. There's so much stuff I have to do, but at the moment it is Tales of Arise focused. I'm probably gonna be focused on that for at least the next 2 videos. And then after that, I gotta do Final Fantasy Pixel remasters and all other kinds of stuff.
yeah, because 4 comes out, or is it already out? No, 4 comes out soon, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think 4 comes out like the day before Tales of Arise. I think it's the 9th.
Oh yeah. Too many games to play. But yeah, that's gonna be it for this week. I will. I'm probably gonna have this uploaded either on Thursday or Friday. I'm not 100% sure yet because I got to go through and throw in a bunch of stuff. But yeah, again, thank you for coming on, and everybody else, take care playing Arise, and we'll be talking more about it next week, I guess.
Be good now.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
Before you go, remember to like, comment, and sub to us. Not only does it help out the channel and let us know what you're into, but it also makes you 100% cooler than everybody else. I checked with Aqua. It's definitely true.